It is 2:00 and this meeting will come to order. Like all of our trustees are here. What do you got to chit chat, please? Thank you. All of our trustees are here, our legal counsel is here, and our treasurer is not here yet. All right, and so we will have the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All right. I would like to move that we amend the agenda for, excuse me, item number 13. You strike the words April 29th, 2020, and leave the rest as is. It was brought to the board's attention that 429 directors unilateral COVID authority was modified on June 18th, also in 2020. And the director didn't think to be able to look it up if there was further modification.
With the vote on it, you can change the agenda.
Yes, number 13. Just striking the words April 29th, 2020 from number 13. Secretary?
I would just recommend that we remove this item from the agenda. It wasn't very clear to me what it was covering. I don't have any policy on the website that says COVID policy. And because it listed the April 29th minutes, I put that in the packet and no other information was available. So I think without giving the trustees 48 hours notice of a clear agenda topic, it would be unfair.
Okay, well, I had asked for the COVID policy to be in the packet on the 11th of this month. And then I also gave you the date that it was passed.
So I'm happy to let the whole community know that that day was right before I left town, which I had told everybody. And there is not, to my knowledge, a COVID policy that's listed on our website. And the only reference to this statement that I could understand was April 29th. This topic was not brought up in a regular board meeting. I was not given an opportunity to ask questions. And so I, again, did not think it was clear or that it was legitimately posted as a topic.
Well, I've got a copy of the policy, but it's got my notes all over it. So I'm, but I did give you the date, so you can get that to us by next month.
Sure.
Trustee Claus?
I'm pretty sure we were given the policy a couple months ago when this came up.
Do we have?
We were given the document because we were going to talk about it, and I don't even recall why it was put off.
Trustee Blank?
I looked all over for a policy and I couldn't find the COVID policy. I have no idea where the COVID policy is, and I went back and looked through my notes. So I would suggest until we can find that and have it in front of everybody that we don't have anything much to talk about. We're just talking about air.
Trustee Robinson?
Is it actually a COVID policy that you're talking about, or is it the emergency action policy?
No, it is an actual policy, and it was passed, I think, in October of 21. So 3 of us here voted on that policy.
Right, and
Trustee Henley? Sorry, you don't have the.
Oh, I'm just curious. I don't know much about what it's about exactly. Is it something worth at least discussing at this meeting? And then if there are big decisions being made, then we need more, maybe we need more information. I don't know. Again, I'm not up to speed on what it is exactly.
Okay, it seems apparent that we will need to postpone it, but yeah, maybe we'll take a few minutes. So I withdraw the motion and we will proceed with the
I have an
agenda as is.
I have an agenda request.
Okay, Trustee Blank?
I would like to move item 17, which is the Athol and Post Falls facilities update, right after the director's report. It is one of the most important things we're talking about, and the director's report and an update on the facilities go hand in hand. So that gives the director a chunk of time to deal with both of them rather than chopping it up. That's my request.
Plus,
So I kind of object to that. The director report is a document that is given to us. I mean, part of it is a document given to us in the handout. Plus whatever else she wants to talk about, but I would like a specific amount of time to go over this. It's one of the most crucial things. And we asked for it last month. That's why it's here. I specifically asked, and we got a consensus agreement to get a budget for this whole facilities work. And that's what I would like to hear during that time.
Can I add some clarification to what I was asking? Just to be clear, I wasn't asking it to be part of. I was asking to move that item to below after the director's report and having it the same amount of time, the same everything, just moving it. That's all I was asking.
trustee Hammond?
Since it's a large topic, if we did strike the COVID policy on the agenda, maybe we could also, if it's necessary, allot a little more time to that line item regarding the restoration of the libraries. Just a thought, and we may have to shuffle one thing down. Let's say if we are gonna push it up on the agenda, maybe we should take the personnel policy line item 12 and push that, I think after the break. Is there a break in here somewhere? Yeah, or push something down so we don't have a 2-hour or 3-hour start and then 15-minute wrap up. Anyway, but I'm flexible.
Hey, trustee Robinson?
I still think there's confusion by some trustees that the board report done by facility managers is not part of the director's report at all. I don't think that there's anything in our packet that has to do with the director's report unless it's in the table packet, which I haven't had time to look at.
Okay, so we want to switch everything on the agenda. It sounds a little confusing. I think that we ought to just leave things the way they are. But if there's no further discussion, we will take a vote on trustee Blank's
You
motion.
don't have to do that. We'll
Okay.
just leave it as it is.
Okay. Alrighty, then we will start with public comment. Speakers must state name and community and speak for no more than 3 minutes. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe a level of civility and decorum appropriate for a board meeting or for a public meeting. No personal attacks or disruptions from audience members will be tolerated. I would like to remind everyone that we should not to disrupt the board's work or disrupt the audience members' experience of the meeting. First up, we have Michelle Lippert.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Lippert and I live in Post Falls. I watched the testimony concerning House Bill 170 before the Senate State Affairs Committee. I'm assuming that you must have as well. The testimony against the library bill was overwhelming. One person hit a real core with me. That was Crystal Ivy. She spoke of being raised in a totally dysfunctional home and finally finding the courage to name the sexual abuse she was experiencing because of a book in the library. My first job after graduating from college was as a biology teacher in a Catholic high school in Seattle. My first year, I served as a sophomore class advisor. The class president was charismatic with great ideas, an awesome student and athlete. Her dad was a great supporter of the school, the type of parent who saw a need for a soccer storage shed and got it built. The next year, her younger sister was in one of my classes. Unlike her older sister, she was intent on being the class clown. Another great athlete, but not a good student. 2 years later, the third daughter was a student of mine. Good student, quiet, too quiet. She finally opened up to the school counselor about the serial incest in her family. When I read the young adult book, Identical, that experience came back to me. It is a disturbing exploration of the trauma of incest. The book clearly had not been published when I was a high school teacher, but I wondered if it had been, and if the older sister had read that book, could it have changed their lives as the library experience of Crystal Ivy's did? Data would suggest that 9.2% of Kootenai County children have experienced sexual abuse. Statistics would allow that approximately 7.6% of children using the library are LGBTQ. The suicide rates among children of abuse and the LGBTQ are high. Ask yourself before you pull that lever down the slippery slope to book banning, how many lives could be saved if we had Identical on the shelves or All Boys Aren't Blue? How many books, how many lives? How many lives would one book have to save in order to be worthwhile? 50, 25, 10, 1? Ask yourself. Thank you.
Right, next we have Josiah Mannion.
I'm Josiah. Hayden is my home library. Tell you what, y'all. You're trying to convince me that the driving force behind the board majority is not patriarchal white Christian nationalism. Getting rid of the honoring of Juneteenth as a federal national holiday is absolutely not going to do it. I mean, how did you decide that that was the disposable federal holiday in order to add another non-federal day to Thanksgiving? Was there a poll among the staff at CLN? If there was, it wasn't the non-salaried hourly paid staff who lose their hours to the holidays, because I didn't see it. So I can only conclude that you believe that the holiday that honors Black freedom is disposable. And that therefore, by direct extension, you believe that Black freedom and Black lives are disposable. And that ain't gonna fly. I mean, y'all gotta know. You gotta know that no matter how hard you try to frame it in colorblind official language, that stuff is racist to its core. And it exposes your racist bones. Although, to be fair, you didn't reinvent that wheel all by yourselves. That's just how racism has been systematized in post-civil rights America. You'll gotta know that if the system's view effect is mostly on Black folks, Black staff, any non-white staff, no matter how notional, then at a systems level, it's racist. How do you think Nick Grove down in Meridian would feel about that? You think he'd let his library system just get rid of Juneteenth? I mean, most of y'all, regardless of whatever else you are, aren't idiots. So you gotta know how that's gonna play. That public perception, local, regional, state, national, is going to be that that's a racist decision. But I don't know, maybe you're counting on that. Maybe you're counting on that to continue to encourage white flight to North Idaho from Southern California. And I know that it bothers you that there are books in our library that celebrate Juneteenth, that celebrate Black lives, Black freedom, Black beauty, both adult and children's books. I know that bothers you to no end, because you want to believe that white people, white Christian men especially, have some weird manifest destiny in this nation, even and maybe especially in the American readout. But no, y'all, no. Black lives matter. Native lives matter. I mean, if you're gonna dispose of a holiday, why not get rid of the racist one? Get rid of Columbus Day. Since our area has already refused to let go of the Columbus part of it, the part that specifically honors and reifies
Right,
symbols of
finish up,
violent
please.
colonial slave racism, get rid of that one.
Okay, thank you.
Incorporate
And
Indigenous Peoples Day into Thanksgiving, it makes sense, but
next we have Jeanette Laster.
Trustees, community, staff, good afternoon. I had planned to talk about some of the employee OSHA standards today, but then by 11 o'clock, I had received probably 6 or 7 calls yesterday and today, this morning, in regards to the removing of the Juneteenth holiday. And so I'm here today. I'm hoping that in my 3 minutes, I can talk about both. I was extremely concerned by the comments that were made a while back about employees working in unhelpful circumstances. And I looked up the OSHA rules, and the federal law entitles everybody to a safe workplace, right? But the employer must keep the workplace free of known health and safety hazards. And the statement that came to mind as you were discussing it was that they do have the right to speak up about hazards without fear of retaliation. And in that particular board meeting, I witnessed a lot of what I would call bullying and harassment publicly in the workplace. And I think even some of the employees mentioned that publicly. And so I just really want to emphasize that now we're accommodating volunteers into the public library, and that, safety is an issue, safety gear, safety masks, safety gloves, all of those kinds of things. And this does open up the library board to certain potential litigation if we're not taking those extra steps. So I hope in the past weeks that has been done. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to staff, but that was my original concern for talking today until yesterday when I received information about the Juneteenth holiday. So I want to talk about the library boards being organized or underneath the legislature, and how important this holiday is, and that it is a federally and state recognized holiday, and that employees should have the ability to have this off. I do understand that it's not a paid holiday necessarily given to them, but when other entities, federal and state, are given the opportunity and it is recognized and designated as that state holiday, the opportunity for them to have the same benefits that other employees have across public funded lines, I think is extremely important. And I don't know, the attorney would be more better to talk about this, but reaching out to the Secretary of State before a decision is made, talking to the bar, and and looking into that, I think would be beneficial.
Thank you. And next we have Tamara Signs Carmelis.
Hi, I'm Tamara and I'm from Hayden. I was one of the women removed from the last library board meeting. And I came here today to speak about free speech. And I realized that the audience, not just me and the other person that were removed, but the entire audience at the last board meeting, occasionally made loud grumbles or whispers to each other. But I have been at board meetings in the past couple of years where people have literally screamed at previous board members, calling them groomers. I've heard some pretty horrible language, and I've never seen anybody else removed from a library board meeting. And it was pretty shocking to me, especially the loudest I got was actually during the break. You guys called a break, and I said, your behavior is shameful, because it is. Your behavior is extremely shameful. And also I wanted to talk about, I know you're going to talk about signs in the audience today. For the last couple of years, my teenagers have been coming to Rainbow Squad at this library and at the Post Falls Library, and they have had to walk by signs about them going to hell, about them burning, just awful, horrible signs. They can't even meet at this library anymore. I feel like because of the actions of the board chair has made comments about not wanting the Rainbow Squad meeting at the library. So they don't meet here anymore. They had to go to a church where they're more welcome. than a public library that is not supposed to be based on extreme Christian nationalist views. It's supposed to be a free space for all views, not just the views that you 3 board majority members agree with. I wish I had prepared something. I honestly was so nervous to speak today because I didn't have anything prepared. I'm obviously emotional. But your actions are clear. Removing Juneteenth as a holiday, getting rid of the Rainbow Squad from meeting at the public library. I'm really nervous for your material selection that you're gonna talk about. If books are lost or stolen, oh, whoopsie, they're gone. We don't need to replace them. Gee, I wonder what kind of books you're not gonna replace. It's pretty obvious. Books that have to do with racism, books that have to do with LGBTQ characters. You know, this is a public space. This should be for everybody. Everyone should be safe to come to the library and find books that serve a wide spectrum of the entire community. Thank you.
Next, we have Teresa Burkett.
My name is Teresa Burkett, and I live in Post Falls, and I am a mother and a grandmother. First, this board has decided to revise the material selection policy despite the existence of a well-established policy since November 2022. You are eliminating the principle of intellectual freedom from the policy, which is fundamental to the functioning of libraries. Intellectual freedom includes the freedom to access and share ideas without limitations, a key aspect of your role that this board appears to overlook. Regarding the new withdrawal policy, you are attempting to either relocate or discard books considered unsuitable for minors by moving them to the adult collection. The previous library board approved library cards based on a child's age, which should be the sole criteria for determining a book's appropriateness. It also grants parents the right to decide what is appropriate for their children. Additionally, why are taxpayers funding Mr. Boyles to simply sit at the table and contribute nothing to this board, other than instructing Ms. Addison on how to handle so-called disruptors in the audience? Mr. Plass, since you have stated you are willing to give taxpayers refunds, I want a refund on my taxes for his services. Second, it's puzzling why Juneteenth, a day commemorating the end of slavery, has been removed from the holiday schedule, given the historical significance of it in our nation's history. It should not be one of your priorities. Instead, you should be focusing on your fiscal responsibilities or lack thereof. Third, this board is attempting to make changes to the public comment policy while not adhering to its current requirements. It states that it is mandatory for this board to address public comments in the next regular meeting. However, since you have taken over, Ms. Addison, I have not witnessed a single instance where you have followed this policy. This indicates that you are changing this policy without ever having followed it. It is crucial to have a robust and transparent public comment policy to ensure that the voices of the public are heard and their concerns are addressed appropriately. Therefore, it is imperative that you adhere to the public comment policy, which is a fundamental aspect of a democratic system. And remember, you work for all of us. Thank you.
Great. Next, we have Charles Coates.
Hi, my name is Charles. I live in Post Falls. And I just wanted to briefly say thanks to the board for not raising taxes this last budget cycle. Thanks to the board for giving the staff an overdue raise. And thanks to the board for addressing the material selection policy, which is why the board turned over last year. Thank you.
Great. And next we have Pat Raffy.
Pat Raffy, I live in Post Falls. When I was in government service, I learned from public comment. I've presented to Idaho governmental leaders since 1992, but only encountered disdain this last few months. So today, I'm going to address my remarks to Trustees Vanessa Robinson and Katie Blank, because they want to hear them. Thank you both. We citizens see your commitment to service. We notice how valiantly you exercise duty of care for CLN. I'm sorry it's such hard work, but we appreciate it. I commend you for challenging the viewpoint discrimination that gets more robust every meeting. Silently, inwardly, I cheer when you insist on hearing from staff. I take heart when you, Ms. Blank and Ms. Robinson, reliably uphold provisions of Idaho's open meeting law. That includes your desire for legal advice transparency. Ms. Robinson, thank you for encouraging Mr. Boyles to directly voice his guidance during the meetings. We citizens want to hear what he has to say. Ms. Blank, thank you for helping Mr. Boyles provide more specifics on executive session as Idaho Code directs. And thank you both for challenging board overreach into staff responsibilities. Thank you for making decisions based on reason. Your actions show us what good governance is rightly concerned about. How much legal fees are exceeding budget? How legally sound and objective provider selection processes would benefit this board and lower your risk. While I'm here, I also want to thank CLN's capable and resilient staff and our unflappable director, Alexa Eccles. Your professionalism inspires us all. The outpouring of community support for repairing our damaged libraries and during last week's book sale shows how many of us are honored to stand with you. And since I haven't been interrupted, evicted, or arrested, I better stop now. Thank you.
All right, that concludes our public comments. We will now move on to the consent agenda.
Sure.
Trustee Robinson?
I have a board procedure question. So I believe this is where I would do it. It's been brought to the board's attention about, there was on the March 6th meeting, there was a potential violation of open meeting law. And I'd like the board to be able to cure it. If in fact that was the case, because that's the right procedure to do. And I know that this was sent to the council as well, so I would like to hear from council on his opinion, if we should.
Yeah, sorry,
Point of
point of order.
Not on the agenda.
I don't mind talking about that, but this is the consent agenda. We're only talking.
Where
5
would
minutes.
we talk about this?
I guess we could bring it up at the end, but this is just the minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th.
I would like to hear
Hold on,
from
I've got-
if
I have the floor.
the meet-
You don't, and that's.
if
it's
it was
point of
violated.
order. The chair rules that, that this comment is out of order for this topic, or for the item that we're on.
Booth, please tell me where we can talk about this.
At the end, where we bring up future topics. All right, so back to the consent.
And council
agenda.
has nothing to say about that.
It's off topic. We're not supposed to be talking about it.
Last
So
meeting
do
may
we
have been a violation and you're going ahead with a meeting now without getting council's opinion and possibly hearing it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Who's
sorry,
the
but your
chair?
behavior
Who's
is
the
out of
chair?
order. I've already told you that it's out of order and you're
Could we hear from
continuing to
council?
talk anyway. I don't think you can.
If you'd like to send me an email, Ms. Robinson, on the alleged open meeting law violation, I'd be happy to
I
respond.
believe an email was sent on the alleged.
I
open
need a
meeting.
specific allegation to look into related to an open meeting law violation.
Okay. And then I'll
Okay.
hear back from you when?
Sure.
When?
I will.
I would hear
respond.
back from you when?
I will look into it and respond to you and make a recommendation on the board regarding whether I believe a violation occurred and if we need to cure the violation.
If I could just,
If her point of order.
No, just about public comment. If
Oh.
we have 30 minutes, we can review written comments as well as in-person testimony. So it could be a public comment because it was an email received by the whole board. So I'll just clarify, if we still had 30 minutes, instead of moving on to the next agenda, it could be a topic.
Okay, yeah, but we're on the consent agenda. That's a good idea, but we, well, actually, I'm not gonna bring up what we discussed because that's off topic also. Okay, so consent agenda. Did anyone have any corrections or comments, questions? Ms. Robinson?
I would like to just mention the board reports, because they never get brought up anymore. They've dwindled down to just a few pages, which can't say I don't miss the super thick ones. But they've dwindled down to such a small amount, and I just want to make sure all the managers of the different facilities know that they have been received and that.
Okay, I'm sorry, point of order.
That's not enough.
Yeah,
Those
and you-
items are not under consent
Most-
agenda.
yeah.
We're only discussing regular meeting of February 15th, 2024.
Correct, but that used to
And
be
the
on the
CIN.
agenda and it's never on the agenda anymore. That's my point. Oh, I'll wait till the end of the meeting for that one too, and I'm sure it'll go on.
What, we need to stay
I
on the
just want to thank the
topic.
managers for putting in the time, that's all. I assume some people don't even
Okay.
read it, because they don't care.
All right, do we have any comments on the actual consent agenda? No? Okay, I had a comment. There was 5 pages for, just the minutes of the February 15th meeting. So it's just, it's laborious to go through. It's laborious to try to find something because there's so much information there. I think it would be less divisive and there'd be less corrections, easier to find something. If we did, as the Idaho Commission for Libraries suggested, which that's the manual page 81. Robert's Rules also suggests, and that's 48-1. And Jim McNall in his 2022 ICRIMP presentation to this board, they all specified that minutes are supposed to be a record of what was done, like the actions, not what was said. So it's so hard to find anything. So I think that the minutes were just mostly a record of what was done, the actions, you know, the motion failed or carried, and maybe a brief summary of the facts rather than the he said, she said. I think that would be helpful. Do we have majority consent on that?
I would just say, if I can comment. It's the board's responsibility right now to address the specific things that they want changed and as a group to decide on each statement. And I will say, I find it really objectionable that this is the first time that, or second time that I've had an assistant helping me. And this is her essentially first regular meeting notes, and to be so critical is, wow. I mean, I will say that I prefer to have, I mean, we now are doing roll call votes on almost every action because there's a tremendous amount of distrust among the board, not related to staff or keeping a record. So those are making the meetings longer. This had, I think I could count the agenda items. I mean, it's 5 pages for a reason, and it's very little to do with the topic summaries. So I would not recommend that the board make an unclear motion to staff, rather to be specific in what you think is a he said, she said comment, and to have those removed item by item, or to have the board come to a consensus about what they would prefer is stated. But to make a blanket statement that no matter how long the meeting or how many roll call votes are made or how much public comment is made or any of the topics, that it's going to be limited to a certain number of pages, it needs to be specific. It needs to be clear to staff.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did not mean to disparage staff. This is the way it's been done the whole time I've been on the board, and it's always presented difficulty. So, I mean, these, anyway, trustee Hanley?
No, I'm just gonna say, I did not hear any criticism of any staff members.
Okay, yeah, that wasn't the way that I meant it. It's a lot of extra work, and we're going against what ICFL, Idaho Commissions for Library, has told us to do. We were going against what ICRIMP has told us to do, and we're going against Robert's Rules, what they say that minutes are supposed to be. So like I said, I think that the minutes should be a record of what was done, and, just a few brief facts that were brought up in support or against. Trustee Blake?
There is a lot of discussion and confusion on our library meetings, and that needs to be reflected in the minutes, what happened. I don't see any he said, she said at all when as I'm looking this over. And before, you have highlighted what the commission says about minutes, what Jim McNall said about minutes, and what else? What was the other? There were three.
Idaho Commission for Libraries, Robert's Rules.
Robert's Rules of Order. I would like the opportunity before a decision is made on changing how we do it. I would like the opportunity to look at all of those. Rather than just having a unilateral decision made by the board chair that we're going to do it this way.
Okay, well,
Because I think we need a very detailed minutes.
Trustee Ploss?
So I can give an example on page 4, decision on insurance options, discussion on insurance options. The second half of that paragraph didn't need to have all of that information. I guess you could put in that Ploss made move to engage with Redmond on option 3, and then say simply that Ottoson made a substitute motion. But I don't know why we have to say later on that Eccles questioned the board's criteria for option 3, criticized the decision as reckless, urging more conservative approach in line with financial policy, blank postponed, blah, blah, blah. Just say what we did. Ploss withdrew his motion and we brought it to a vote, and there's the vote.
Okay, so Ploss, you were a yes. I'm a yes. Is there?
What is the motion?
It's majority consent, just that.
There's no such thing as a majority consent. That is not what it is.
Okay, does this need a motion? Guess I'll just.
Well, I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, sure.
Is it on the agenda?
Trustee Ploss?
The motion or the request is to cut out the commentary. Just put down what happened. And I guess I can make a motion if we want to do it that way. I move.
This is not on the agenda.
Sorry, trustee, yeah, we're talking about consent agenda, which includes the minutes. And then trustee Ploss has the floor.
So if we want to do a motion, we can. Otherwise, we can just get an agreement of 3 of us to request that we don't include commentary. We just put down what happened.
Director?
You have a motion on the floor to approve the consent agenda, so you cannot make another.
I don't think anyone has made that.
Okay, let me do that. I move that we approve the consent agenda.
It has been moved that we approve the consent agenda. Trustee Robinson?
I would like to point out that this is a 4-hour meeting that's typed up. So if you take it in that context, it's really not that much wordage on these papers for 4 hours. And I'd also like to point out how ridiculous these agendas are, because the consent agenda action item was 5 minutes. And I don't know how long we've been talking about it, but it's way more than 5 minutes. Our agendas are getting outlandishly long and not enough time on each subject. We will go over or we won't get done.
Well, if everyone just gave honest comments that were to the point and weren't trying to delay, then it would take a lot less time.
So if we all stepped in line with each other?
Yeah, is that what that is?
No, it's not.
So what does that even mean?
I'm just saying that
I'm sorry, you said honest comments? Honest comments?
there have been apparent delaying tactics. Anyway, trustee Hanlon, you wanted the
I
floor.
just want to make sure I understand the motion. Are we just trying to say we want a slightly more concise set of minutes from each meeting? Is that all we're generally agreeing on or not agreeing on?
Yes, I had just said a record of what was done, meaning the actions, and rather than what was said, and maybe just a few.
What is not on the agenda? It's not
We're
on the
talking
agenda.
about
We are
the
on the
minute.
consent agenda.
We're talking about the minutes.
Can we just talk about? So typically what you would say is that you request that the minutes for the meeting be removed from the consent agenda and discussed. It would come down, you would approve the other items of the consent agenda, and then you would have a discussion about any specific minutes that you want edited or changed. That's the procedural way to handle that. This other topic really, it is not related to the consent agenda, and it is overly and out of scope.
Trustee Boss?
I didn't actually make a motion, it was just a suggestion if we did it, but I would like to modify this agenda from February 15th. Strike the,
You have a motion on the floor.
Okay,
Okay,
and
and have to review the motion or, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We made a motion to accept the consent agenda and then we have discussion after that. He's got a discussion point on something that was on the consent agenda. Okay, which was?
I would like to correct this, the minutes of February 15th, strike the sentence.
What page?
Page 4, under the discussion, the heading discussion on insurance options. Strike the sentence that starts with Eccles questioned the board criteria for option 3 and criticized the decision as reckless, urging Ottison's motion not urging a more conservative approach in line with financial policy, blank move to postpone, not brought to a vote, just and even plus express frustration with ICRIMP lowering insurance, remove that, and remove Eccles urged board to act conservative, and just go, then continue with plus move for a 10-minute extension and Ottoson brought to a vote.
Trustee Blake?
That is what happened at the meeting. Taking it out is censorship. That is what happened at the meeting. When you talk about, let's put down here what happened at the meeting. What happens at these meetings is discussion, talk, words. That's what happens. There's no action here. And so that is reporting. And what this looks like is, once again, some kind of lack of transparency and unwillingness to take responsibility for what actually happened and what actually was said.
Okay, it just seems inappropriate for what we've been advised by Robert's Rules, Idaho Commission for Libraries.
Yeah, give us
I
time.
still have the board, I have the floor. Anyway, it seems inappropriate. I'm not really sure that it needs to be removed. I'm just saying that going forward, all this information that has sometimes in the past seemed slanted. That we just follow what we're supposed to be doing. Trustee Henley?
Would it be reasonable to have this as an agenda item, maybe next round, where it just at least
Point of
shows?
order. That should be at the end of the meeting.
Uh,
I don't know.
Sure.
okay, no, actually, I think I think that we should pull this out of the consent agenda and just approve the rest of the consent agenda.
Chair.
Trustee Robinson?
So I feel like what some of the trustees are doing right now by trying to, and I will use the word, censor, or what's that, redact, a document. This is something that happened. If moving forward, you want less in it, that's one thing, but to take it out now is censoring what was said and written down. And goes along with what you were saying of people prolonging situations where they shouldn't be and making us off the 5 minutes, which is probably like 15 now.
Okay, so I think as chair, well, actually, I'm not 100% sure, that I just remove this, or do we need to vote to remove that one item and then approve the rest?
Trustee Blank has a motion on the floor, so it would require a vote on it or a friendly amendment. Because the whole consent agenda is up for vote right now.
Okay, Trustee Bloss?
So I move a friendly amendment to remove the minutes of February 15th from the consent agenda for further discussion at another time.
Or we could just say that there's a motion to accept the consent agenda minus minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th. And then we,
Okay.
okay, so I guess we vote on the amendment. Has been moved to amend the original motion to accept the consent agenda, minus the minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Oh, is there further discussion? Director?
I'm deeply concerned that it appears that the board majority is taking a viewpoint discrimination for anything that's critical, or not in their favor, or, they do not like. And so I feel that, the proposed language removal is again on the basis of viewpoint discrimination, and it minimizes.
Sorry, point of
staff's
order,
input.
we're actually not talking about that. We're taking this out of the, so that any discussion has to do with the amendment, which is to remove the minutes of the regular meeting, February 15th. So
I think they
all
should
those
be as stated.
That was my point.
those in favor of the amendment to, minus the minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
I am
so-
opposed, just so you know.
Okay, I was hopefully gonna remember to ask that, but thank you for making that clear. Okay, so it has been moved to accept the consent agenda minus the minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those,
I will.
Wait,
Yeah.
is that the same one?
It's just the two, just the two. CIN and the CIN financial report and the CIN minutes, that's all it is.
Abstain.
okay, and any opposed? Okay, so the ayes have it, and the consent agenda minus the minutes of the regular meeting of February 15th, 2024 are accepted. Do we have majority consent on the other thing?
What are you talking about?
A record of what was done, not what was said, and a brief summary.
Wait, that's not an agenda item. I mean, that is not on the
It
agenda.
has to do with the minutes.
Okay, the point of order. All that's on here is to either approve or not approve the minutes. It is not a discussion of how minutes are done. That is not on the agenda. How minutes are done is not on the agenda. Disapproval with what was done has been expressed. But at this point in time, we have minutes. Are we going to pass them or not pass them? And if we're going to have a discussion on minutes and how they're done, that needs to go on another agenda.
Okay, okay, the chair finds that your point of order is well taken, and I will try to remember to bring that up at the end. Okay, so next, we have Community Library Network, CLN, February 2024 financial statements, action item. I'd entertain a motion to accept the CLN February 2024 financial statements.
Sure, discussion.
Chris Bloss?
I had discussion before accepting. I'd like pardon?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Real quick, line item 33, internet access. It looks like somebody's paying for it and it's not us, and I look at the description. Fat Beans our vendor. E-rate discounts are being applied. Negative amount reflects state reimbursing the district for non-E-rate. I don't understand why the state's doing it and why it shows up if it's. Why does it show up and then get subtracted, I guess?
Trustee Blake?
I will, depending, tell me if I'm doing it wrong, okay? We never budget for what the state might reimburse us for that internet access because it's sporadic. We never know whether it's going to happen or not. So my assumption is that we received money from the state that we did not budget in there specifically. We specifically don't budget it in there because we can't count on them. So is that what happened?
Yeah, that's an accurate assessment.
Okay.
Sure.
Sorry, Trustee Bloss?
Is that E-rate? Or is E-rate, I thought E-rate was something else. Is E-rate the state paying?
If I can answer that.
Director?
E-rate pays for telecom and internet providing. And we have other items that may fall in that may not be covered by E-rate. So
Is it the
E-rate.
state?
E-rate is federal funds.
Okay, trustee Fox?
What's the state? I've never heard about the state paying for internet. That's what alerted me. I know it wasn't E-rate, so.
Trustee Blank?
The state typically will reimburse, not typically, but the state reimburses whimsically, perhaps, we'll put it that way.
And if you want to read the note on 34, it says that the state reimburses the district for non-E-rate supported expenses. So I can't remember, but like the physical telephone lines versus cell phones or net hotspots, and it's actually very complex. And so there are some things that E-rate will not cover. And so the state steps in and pays for that.
Trustee Hammond?
Just a short comment. I was happy to see that the expenses appear to be well within budget down the line for the most part. So it was very pleasing to see that when I reviewed this before the meeting. So just compliments. Thank you.
Trustee Fox?
So this at the top of the budget says this is 5 months ending the end of February. So 5/12 is 41.67%. And even things like that keep being brought up, legal and professional, it's 44. It's barely over the almost 42%. It all looks like it's doing well to me. It's just, I don't know what's going on with other expenses with the library restoration.
Okay, we are done with discussion. I entertain a motion to accept the CLN February 2024 financial statements.
I move that we approve the CLN 2020, February 2024 financial statements.
It has been moved to approve the CLN February 2024 financial statements. If there's no further discussion, there is trustee Blank.
I just have one more question. Does the staff have anything else they'd like to add concerning the financial statements?
Director?
I was just going to, again, kind of what the board is doing, guide for them to look for anything that's really under budget or anything that's really over budget. And I was just going to point out, I think we've mentioned this before, but the employee assistance program and the Viva Health, those are paid one time a year, and that's why you see a higher number there. There was that negative number, which Janelle always does a fabulous job of explaining anything that looks unusual. I think snow removal, I'm hoping we're done for the year, if I can say that, but I don't want to jinx us. But that's kind of where we landed, and that's our best guess, and it varies a little bit. The audit did come a little over, but again, we did receive notice that the prices had remained the same for quite a period of time. And so we did know that was going to happen. So there's nothing on here that was out of the ordinary.
Okay, so it has been moved to approve the CLN February 2024 financial statements. If there is no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, sounds like it is unanimous. So the CLN February 2024 financial statements are approved. Next, we have discussion of Community Library Network February 2024 carry forward balance analysis. Director, can you say that?
The number to really focus on is that 1.3 million that has the double line underneath of it. That is our current carry forward, or as the auditor called it, fund balance that is not restricted. The best practices, as we've talked in the past, is for 2 months. And so we are currently in a very positive position of $500,000 over our best practice amount. And that is specifically related to the funds that we receive from the state.
Okay, if there is no discussion, trustee Blake,
I would just like to say thank you. This is a really helpful sheet. And updating it, I hope it doesn't take a lot, but updating it like this is really valuable. Thank you.
okay, with no further discussion, we'll move on to circulation statistics, February 2024. Trustee Robinson?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that, it looks like, in total, there's 51 new minor cards, and it looks like 50% are, the or limited kid cards. So that's a good showing of choice.
Trustee Blake?
Looking at the statistics, do you think that the circulation, is it Post Falls and Athol is the concerning the drop? Okay. That's pretty dramatic.
Okay, trustee Claus?
So on the phrase of the minor cards and teen limited and stuff, that's under new patrons. So those are new cards is what I understand. Do we have any information about this almost 46,000 current card holders? If any of them have been updated with minor cards? Or any minor card that gets updated is called a new patron? Maybe you can clarify.
Director?
I reported that a couple of months ago when we started the teen cards. This report is largely used to populate the state annual report that we complete. I can provide that information anytime, a breakdown on the total number of minor cards, but this is a snapshot per month. And again, like the teen cards have just started since January, so this is just January and February numbers. And so I would encourage, again, if you want to see a trend, to look at it more than just every month. So maybe on a quarterly or half a year or annual basis.
Trustee Claus?
Are there minor and teen cards issued other than what's in here? I guess this is just for this month.
This is just for this month.
But is that the only place we would see it is new each month? They're considered new patrons, or is there old patrons that are getting updated?
It's both. It's the designation that we're recording here of what type of card they're using.
Trustee Blake?
Maybe to ask it, I don't know if this is gonna be differently, but if somebody were to come in and have a card for their child, and that card was active, and they wanted to change it to a minor card, would that fall under a new card, or would that fall under?
I believe it would fall under a new card,
Okay.
unless it's reflected in the new card numbers.
Okay.
And like Alexa just said, it would be caught in the system as that type of record and thus be categorized.
Okay, so people who come in who've had a card for their kid for a while and change it, that would be reflected in this new card. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, we will move on to the next topic, which is the director's report.
I did put a copy of my report on the table so that I know you prefer to read along. First, I wanted to mention that I attended the Public Library Directors Summit, March 14th and 15th in Boise. Keynote speaker John Cheska was the executive director of Every Library Institute, and he presented on understanding the matrix of support. Crucial takeaways were a better understanding of how people engage, civic-minded, a reason to become involved, mobilized, personal contact with issue, culture of involvement, trusting government, decided to act, for access to venues, donors and volunteers, an identified need, personal motivation, experience of the issue, prior success, institutional reputation, made a pledge, and ease of involvement. I also learned about the role of coalitions, which are focused on funding or policy, not programming or services. And some phrases that left an impact for marketing tomorrow builds use and marketing yesterday builds support. And librarians are and are seen by the public as the experts on libraries and librarianship. This is supported by recent and Idaho-based public poll results. Ed Jewell, municipal attorney with the city of Boise, presented on harmful to minors and obscenity laws in the library. Because of the timing, his presentation largely reviewed House Bill 710. Included in your copy of this report is the text. Key takeaways being, as currently written, it will likely meet constitutional review tests and it utilizes the state's harmful to minor and obscenity definitions. No materials owned by CLN would be determined to meet this proposed bill's definition of harmful to minors. In preparation for April's Board of Trustee meeting and the upcoming job discussion, I requested a quote from McGrath Human Resources Group. It was received March 21st. For anyone that may not recall, McGrath Human Resources completed CLN's classification and compensation in 2023. Currently, CLN has about 30 job descriptions. The current rate per job description development is $195 per document. The assigned consultant for this project is specified as an HR library subject matter expert with experience serving as a human resources professional in both the nonprofit and public sector for over 25 years. Ms. Henry is active in several professional organizations, including SHROOM, and serves as a board member of several human resource associations and a local government advisory board. The staff's experience working with McGrath HR Group last year was extremely positive. Melina Halverson-Moss was the senior consultant who developed CLN's compensation and classification model and will remain in the next phase of the project in a support role. The quote allows library administration and the board to be flexible in managing costs and to determine the scope of work, starting with a minimum of 5 job descriptions at $1,000 or completing all 30 job descriptions at a cost of $5,850. Included in your copy of this report is the full job description quote. CLN and CIN's annual audit presentation to the board has been secured for the May 16th meeting. The presentation will be Tony Hackwith and typically takes 10 to 15 minutes. She will go over the audited financial statements, and I recommend allowing 30 minutes to ensure time for trustee questions. At the April regular meeting, CLN's administration will present a memo explaining the process of reopening budgets and the assigning of unanticipated funds. Budget season typically begins in spring for CLN. ICFL Trustee Manual, page 35, states a good budget cannot be written the day before it's due. A full budget process is not something that is completed in just one board meeting. The more time that can be spent on the budget, the more useful it is likely to be. Next month, I will provide a draft budget special meeting schedule for the board's consideration. ICFL's Trustee Manual, page 133, states the budgeting process should involve the following steps: definition of goals and activities, information gathering, estimating potential income, comparing costs and income, adjusting goals and activities, and presenting the budget. District libraries must have a budget hearing that is open to the public. Trustee responsibility regarding budgeting and CLN's 3-year strategic plan will be presented during the 5-minute trustee education section at today's meeting. What's included is a copy of the ICFL trustee manual, pages 133 through 135. And then finally, I will be on paid leave March 30th through April 6th, returning to work on Monday, April 8th. I don't know if you have any questions about the topics that I discussed.
Mr. Robinson?
I'm confused on number 2. Like, say, the second bullet even. I don't understand what this is about.
Yes. In your packet, you have the full quote. It looks like this.
That was a table packet?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And it's a quote for,
It's from Victoria McGrath, and I guess it's a memo, and it's titled Job Description Quote. And so they charge, I guess if you want to think of it, $195 per job description. And we have 30 job descriptions.
Chair, can I continue? Thank you. So is this having to do with the request for paper copies of job descriptions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, at the last meeting, there was a request for job descriptions, and there was a couple of statements about creating and the board's role. And there was a comment about what would be recommended, and so this would be my recommendation. And I just followed up so that if the board wants to put it in the budget for this year or for next year, that they would have an idea of what it would cost for a professional organization with professional staff to complete a professional product.
Trustee Foss?
So I am confused. I thought I was. Now I know I am. We asked as a group to get paper copies of the job descriptions, which I've never seen. I've seen some, but not all of them. So why does that mean, our request mean that we have to go pay $195 to get a professional to rework them? Why can't we just see what we have? That's all we wanted. I wasn't interested in myself. I wasn't interested in reworking them all.
Yeah, I don't remember hearing anything about reworking them all. It was just, please give us a copy of what already exists. Trustee Hanley?
I believe I was the person that originally asked for the job descriptions. And I'd be open to entertain the discussion and putting it into the budget for fiscal 24-25. But all I was looking for was currently, we'd like a copy, or I would like a copy of all the job descriptions for the library. And apparently there are about 30 of them. And so that was the only request so far. And other than that, I don't know that it's expected to go into the budget this year, but it's kind of, I also made a comment, one of the meetings when I talked about it is, we can't calculate, I don't think in some ways, compensation decisions if we don't know what the employees are doing. We're trying to look at a particular position. So I just think that given where the budget is and where we are with, it would include potential raises or not. I'm just thinking it probably belongs in the budget for the following year. But all I asked for, and it was, I think it was a motion made across the way for copies of the current job descriptions. That was all.
And that was for April, or was that supposed to be today?
I think it was pushed back to April until the staff members out.
Yeah, that was.
So that's a good point. The topic is unclear to me. So I know it was put on, I think, last special meeting, and there hadn't been any public discussion of that amongst the whole board. So it is very confusing. I will say typically, all of those types of personnel, HR related items, it generally starts with staff coming with an issue or something that they're working through or need the board's assistance on. And I would say that since I got here, job descriptions are something that we would like to review. And we brought recently, I think it was a librarian and a specialist position for the board to approve. And I believe what we had said was that we are trying to work through the recommendations of the classification and comp study. We currently do not have an HR manager in the administrative team. And so if you want my advice or my recommendation, or you're open to listening what staff need, this is what staff need. So again, I think broadening the topic so that we can have honest communication about how to move the entity forward. So I'm happy to provide those documents. I don't know at this point, is that going to be a discussion item on the agenda next month, or is it just going to be paper handouts in your packet?
Trustee Hanley?
I'm not sure what was not clear. All I asked for was copies of the current job descriptions for all the positions in the library. That was all. That was done by a board majority, and it was agreed to, it would be delivered for April in the regular meeting. That's all. That was the full extent of the discussion, and it was a majority decision. And I'm gonna ask anybody to rework these job descriptions or anything else. Just give us copies of the current job descriptions. And if they're not real current, well, give us what you have on file. That's all we're asking for. That's all I had asked for, and that was what was approved by the full board.
Who's next? Trustee Blank.
I got a different take on that. Discussion that there would be some looking at it based upon the fact that these libraries were closed. So a rearrangement by the board of staff, and that is, so I was quite concerned about that. It wasn't clear what it was for. Why would, the purpose of having staff give job descriptions, you are certainly welcome to them. I mean, that's not the problem. The problem is, what's the point? And I think that that was of concern to me, because it is not the jurisdiction of this board to be rearranging jobs.
Okay, yeah, I don't recall any discussion about that. It was just, please give us paper copies of what already exists.
What
That was
for?
the end of it.
Sure.
So we have just a couple of minutes left. I was wondering, or for the director's report, I was wondering if you were going to include an insurance update, reasonably detailed staff utilization plan, and a rough estimate spreadsheet, like what was up on the whiteboard at our last meeting, because those were all things that were asked
That was
for.
here. I mean, the money's here.
Is that part of item 17?
Uh,
I don't know.
I'll just say for the record, that completes my director's report.
Okay, Trustee Henley?
We did agree, I believe at the last meeting, that we were going to get rough numbers, unless that's part of the report for the Post Falls and Athol facility restoration. We were gonna be given a estimate down the line, because it potentially has a budget impact if it's going to go over the insurance allowable $1 million. And that was unquestionably discussed. It was up on a whiteboard right there. And we were going to be given some kind of a pretty decent idea of what the costs were going to be involved. That's unquestionably necessary for us to know what might happen here with regard to the budget. If it's going to run well over the allowable $1 million, could be $300,000 over. Well, then we need to do something now. We don't need to put the brakes on. We're ready to have a crash. It's time to right now potentially slow things down if we need to. And we have no idea, at least I don't, what the costs are involved with regard to the Post Falls facility. Athol looked like it was going to be well over what we were told, well under the maximum allowable, but Post Falls was dangerously high.
Can I
Trustee Blank?
there was an email sent to us today that gives a very detailed report on the Athol Library, on the Post Falls Library, and gives a whole financial breakdown of it. And that is right here in front of me, so you must have received it too.
I didn't know.
Okay, Trustee Claus?
So my simple question is just, can we go over this? I didn't look at the email, but can we go over the high level numbers in your 10-minute time about the libraries?
Actually, there's like 1 minute left.
No, not this.
This is false. Okay.
I'm again going to say the word school, the board, that if they want something to be presented, they should put it on the agenda. So the director's report is essentially the topics that I feel are of greatest need to present to the board. There is on the agenda the Athol and Post Falls facilities update, and that is where I'm prepared to speak. So I think this was 5 minutes, and again, I wasn't given an opportunity to just explain. And I think Trustee Blank's comment about making the director's report and that update together now makes a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah, you're right about the Athol and Post Falls things, but the insurance update and the rough estimate spreadsheet, we had asked you for, the majority agreed, and that you were supposed to give it to us.
Right here, the rough estimate spreadsheet is right here.
So insurance is not on today's agenda.
I don't know.
Okay, well, you had time, you could have just given us a 30-second update. But now.
Point of
we do
order,
not have time
point of order.
anymore. The trustee will state her point of order.
It is literally called director's report. So the director comes in with her report. So to sit here and tell her she didn't do her job or she didn't do what you wanted her to do during the director's report, I find that a little bit insulting.
Okay, well, maybe it was a misconception on my part, but I just, anyway, guess that if we ask for certain information at a certain meeting, it seems like the staff would give that to
You
us.
could have added a 22 to this, I suppose.
Anyway, we are out of time for this and we're just kind of going around in circles. So we are going to go ahead and move on to the next topic, which is discussion of material selection and acquisition policy. Trustee Hammond?
Yes, I have some prepared remarks very quickly. I'll make it as fast as I can. The board's been working on recrafting the material selection policy intermittently for approximately 9 months. It's been somewhat apparent the library director has generally been dissatisfied with the current board draft version, and in response, the board received a somewhat different staff version of the policy back on January 18th at the board meeting. While I don't recall any in-depth discussions surrounding the staff draft, I did state at the February 15th meeting that I would make an attempt to mesh the staff draft back, it was dated from December 21st, I believe, or 18th, I can't remember, with the board draft and possibly create what I'll call a hybrid. And so after taking both policies into consideration, I thought there was some value contained in each of those policies. And since we can't have two policies covering the same subject, obviously, I made a sincere and concerted effort to combine the staff and the board versions. I structured the overall new policy around the staff version, thus taking the liberty of referring it to now as the staff hybrid. In a second mediation effort I'm making here, I took into consideration the quantity of policies under consideration. The board was going in a direction of 3 policies, one for material selection policy, one for materials withdrawal and reconsideration, and the other one for the library card policy. And the staff was looking to combine all 3 into a single policy. So what I'm proposing is to meet in the middle with 2 policies, one with material selection, acquisition, and withdrawal, and the other an updated library card for minors policy. And while I acknowledge there have been very many versions of the policy presented over the last 9 months, I'm hoping everyone will demonstrate some flexibility in giving my proposal some genuine consideration, because I kind of think the baby is now full term and it's going to be overdue shortly. So I'll hand out my draft and we can then move on to the discussions of whatever you want. It doesn't have to be mine because I don't expect you to absorb it all here at this one meeting. So it gives you something to think about after the fact. So if the board wants to go ahead and continue where we were on the existing policy, certainly you're welcome to do that.
Trustee Claus?
We only have less than 15 minutes. I wanted to finish the ones we have. We were very close. I don't want to start on another one now. I would like to consider that the next meeting if we're going to do it. It's just confusing everything to go and put things together. I want a separate selection because the Llano County court case, district court said you're given wide libraries, public libraries are given wide acquisition on their selection and acquisition. And that should be a separate policy to address that. The removal is not the wide withdrawal. It's governed by First Amendment. I don't want to mix them. So I'm opposed to mixing them. So,
Sure. Okay, hold on, I was gonna speak, but I thought he was,
So was I.
and, well, you'll be next. So I think that it would not be a good idea to finish these policies before the legislature is over. We need to see what they do or don't do, because we may have some things that would need to be added. So I think that we could postpone the discussion of materials and until next month. Anyway,
I would just say that I appreciate the sincerity of trustee Henley, and I would love to review what he considers a mediated sort of version. So I would love to get a copy of that.
Oh, very sorry.
sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, who was next?
She's already covered.
Okay, that's fine.
I would like to ask, about this new hybrid policy. Other than the staff putting the two together, did you pull any information? Did you get any? Was anything put in here from any other source or or was there any other source used or consultation or anything? Or was it just taking the two policies and trying to put them together?
I'm not sure that we're supposed to discuss that at this point because this hybrid policy is not on the agenda.
No.
So we could bring that up at the end to put it on
It doesn't
next
have any
month.
reference to which one it is, and this is another draft that I've received, and so
Sure.
I'm not talking about it. Can you wait until I'm done?
No, you can't.
I'm just asking a question. I mean, it's been given to us, it's been, it says discussion of material selection and acquisition policy, and that is one of them I now have. Can I just find out if it had any other sources?
Trustee Robinson, I think you were next.
Thank you. Since I took the time to do this, I am going to say it. It has been about 8 months, actually. We have had this material selection, and it's been renamed several times. So I won't even, it's called right now material selection and acquisition policy. On 13 meetings, clocked at 13 and a half hours, but I know we always go over on that, so I'm sure it's way more than that. Most of that was in special meetings, and in that 8 to 9 months, there's been 21 special meetings. 2021, the entire year had 12, 2022 had 8. And we're not even close to a year, and there's gonna be a lot more special meetings, I'm sure. Back to what a trustee said, he wants to not look at the proposed one, the proposed combined one from trustee Hanley. He wants to look at what we've been working on and then look at this at the next meeting, which makes no sense whatsoever. I also appreciate this hybrid, if you will. But obviously we need time to look at it. So I don't think any discussion should be had on the material selection, whatever it's called now, policy today.
Okay, so I'm gonna move that we postpone the materials discussions until next month. So it has been moved to postpone materials discussions until next month.
Call the question.
Oh, actually, you didn't have the floor, sorry.
I thought I could interrupt with that.
No, can't. Trustee Claus, as much as I would love to just hurry up.
I'm gonna vote no on your motion. We have a limited time. There's 1 or 2 sentences left to figure out. We don't have to approve it, but let's get this one finished and just do it. And then next meeting, we can go entertain another one. I'm opposed to another one, but I would like to just finish this.
Trustee Henley?
Just very quickly, to answer trustee Blank's question, it was almost exclusively the 2 policies, the contents of those. I believe I lifted a line from the Wyoming libraries policy, and I believe that's all. So if you're wondering where it came from, so, and I believe it retains the majority of what both camps would like to see in a policy. I did my best with it. I'm open to criticism with it whenever we actually get to it, if we go to that, in that direction.
Okay, Trustee Robinson?
It's amazing how much praise has been thrown onto people about the material selection policy that has just saved the library, and it hasn't even been passed. What has done anything for this library is the one that was passed in 2022.
Did you want to call the question?
Well, it looks like she wanted to
Okay,
talk.
Trustee Blank?
I am in favor of looking at a new, perhaps better policy. I really appreciate the trustee taking time to look at both of them. I felt that the staff did an amazing job with their combined policy. As a person who has been dealing with public library policies for a very long time, it was one of the better policies I've seen. So I'm very appreciative that this board would look to looking at one that would combine both.
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, it has been moved that we postpone the materials discussions until next month. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Okay, the ayes have it, and the materials discussion is postponed until next month. All right, so next we have a 15-minute break. Okay. Alrighty, okay, so the meeting has been called back to order. We are going to have a discussion, or our next item is number 12, discussion on personnel policy 5.3.6 holidays. The number of holidays is the same. Changes that were made were pretty simple and few. I think last time it only took us 12 minutes to get through this, so I'm hoping that we can pass this rather quickly. We debated and voted last time, just like boards are supposed to. Everyone gets a chance to voice their opinion.
We haven't had any debate on this.
No, last time we changed, sorry, I guess I wasn't clear. I didn't mean to be unclear. Last time we voted to change the personnel policy manual holidays section. It took us 12 minutes. So I move to suspend the rules so that we stop debate and vote on adopting the personnel policy manual 5.3.6 holiday draft as amended at 3:56. There's no debate on motions to limit debate, but we will go ahead and have discussion on this. And I meant to make a point, whenever someone makes a motion, you guys may need to remind me because I'm still getting used to being the chair. Remind me that whoever makes the motion gets first chance to explain why they made the motion. Anyway, so the first point is that President's Day is so generic that people just don't even celebrate anything other than it's a day off. So I think it would be more meaningful if we changed it back to Washington's birthday. The second point is that staff shouldn't be prevented from spending Thanksgiving with their family just because they have to work the next day and can't travel. The third point is so as not to overburden the budget. Last in is first out. So I propose to exchange the extra day for Thanksgiving with the last date that was added, which is Juneteenth. And CLN's only celebrated that once. And the last time, let's see, where is that? Oh, I'm not sure where it is. All right, so I will skip that part. And I just want to say, because some people have impugned our motives and I totally disagree. I just want to say that I'm 1000% behind celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We homeschooled and we spent at least enough time on that day to discuss Martin Luther King, read a book about him, and he was a great man. He was flawed, and hopefully he repented, but he was a great man and he did great things for America. Made America a much better place with love, peace, unity, and dignity. And like I said, I totally respect and admire him. So anyway, further discussion, Trustee Ploss?
So I like all this. Every place I have worked, my whole 40-some year career, we've always had Friday, the day after Thanksgiving. Maybe not Christmas Eve day because, you work a half a day or something and they let you off. But I'm really surprised Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving's not on. I kind of question the idea of President's Day changing to Washington, because Washington is a specific day. I don't know that you can call it the first or the third Monday. The President's Day was put that day to match up with federal holidays, so it covered Lincoln and Washington together. But those days used to move around in the middle of the week and so forth, so I would propose an amendment to change or leave President's Day as it is and keep everything else.
Okay, it's in statute that you can call it either President's Day or Washington's birthday. Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, I looked that up as well, and it's interesting, the President's Day and Washington's birthday. Having to do with the Friday after Thanksgiving, is this something that staff has been asking for, or is this like a staff-driven change that they've been wanting an extra day after Thanksgiving?
Sorry, Trustee Blank, you were next.
Go ahead and answer her question, because I have questions that I need answered.
Okay, I had written notes last time we had this discussion, like a year and some odd months ago, and Trustee Blank had said in adding, I think it was Christmas Eve day, that it's just a nice thing to do, and so that's, I don't know that that was staff driven either, but it's a nice thing to do. It's, for families which need all the help that they can get. Trustee Blank?
Okay, I have several questions. Who put this on the agenda? Who was the person who put this on the agenda?
I put it on the agenda. We discussed putting it on a future agenda last November, and
okay, so you put it on the agenda, so it was not staff driven. It wasn't a staff request.
no, I don't believe it was last time either.
Take Juneteenth off. No, it was a staff request. It was absolutely a staff request. That's why it was on the agenda. So it wasn't a staff request. So I absolutely, I looked at this and I was like, oh my gosh. First of all, taking Juneteenth off is going to be seen as racially motivated. It absolutely will. And it is, of all the federal holidays, it was also voted unanimously, I'm pretty sure, by this board to put Juneteenth on, and it was staff requested. The other thing that happened, because I saw Juneteenth coming off and it looked, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good for us. Then I see President's Day and it's crossed out to be Washington's birthday. Idaho celebrates President's Day. And what first crossed my mind was, oh, are we taking out President's Day because we had a Black president and putting it back? And that's what went through my mind. And I am saying I am not, I'm not an original thinker. And so this is going to be what's going through people's minds. And if this were a staff request or whatever, but to be a single board member's request feels very, very risky. And I have not heard staff asking for a Thanksgiving travel day. Has that happened? All right, so we don't have, so all this is motivated by one trustee.
So we discussed it last November, putting it on a future. So it wasn't just me, it was a majority of the board agreed. And in Idaho statutes, it says that you can call it either President's Day or Washington's birthday. I just thought Washington's birthday was more meaningful.
Idaho calls it President's Day though.
In the statutes, it says.
That's correct, but they label it for the state as President's Day.
Director?
So I'm concerned that we have a time limit of, until 56 after, and the chair spent more than 4 minutes of that or more than the allocated time. And so I'll just say that first. Second, I would draw the attention to the board that it's labeled 5.3.6 holidays. And the day after Thanksgiving is not a holiday or recognized by anybody as a holiday. If you'll note underneath the categories or the ideas of holidays, it says Easter is an exception to the policy. Libraries are closed Easter Sunday, but it is not an official paid holiday. And so my recommendation, if the board is feeling magnanimous, is to create Thanksgiving Friday or travel day in the same vein as Easter. I think it's important that we state to the staff that they are the same as all other state employees, rather than treating the library district's 103 staff differently. So what you're saying by making this motion is that you feel differently than the rest of the state and government workers in the state, that we do not get the designated holidays, that we get less, or again, a different set of standards or a different set of holidays, which to me sounds disparate, which is a legal term, which legal counsel can talk about. But again, I would make the recommendation to the board that they treat Thanksgiving Friday the same as Easter Sunday, where it is a day the library is closed, but there is no pay. The board has already given staff generously 2 personal days if they do fall in this category 1 and 2. And so again, if the staff wants to take a personal day and be paid, then they can. But again, I don't understand. I think the recommendation would be to remove the label of holidays and restate it as days the library will be closed. Because again, this is not a holiday list. This is an arbitrary list of dates that the library will be closed. Trustee Hanley?
A couple comments. I think that just as the board decided and voted at some point, according to trustee Blank, to put Juneteenth on the calendar, we can just as well change it and over to a holiday on a Friday after Thanksgiving. I don't see any issue with that personally. It is within our authority. And unlike trustee Floss, I never got the day after Thanksgiving off, but I think I took that day off as a holiday for myself or a vacation day for my 40+ years working. And my last comment is that I'm indifferent whether we call it President's Day or Washington's birthday. If both of those are synonymous somewhat, I'm okay with either one, but I have no issue if we want to change Juneteenth and take that off the holiday schedule. People can still take leave just as they could take leave the day after Thanksgiving. And if we change it around and have that as a holiday, I think more people follow those times as well. So those are my comments.
Wait, who is next?
Good, okay.
Okay, Trustee Robinson.
Okay, so the reason, a year ago, whenever it was that we passed this, that Juneteenth was added because it had been declared a new federal holiday. That's why it was put on, that's why we amended this policy. To answer if a trustee is not sure on that, it was the president declared that it is a national holiday, so that's why we changed that. I'm indifferent with President's Day and Washington's birthday. I remember back when they changed it, I was upset, but I'm over it now because it was so long ago. And I just feel like if the staff has it, because they were the ones that brought this to us originally. If they're not upset with not having the day after Thanksgiving, I see no reason to change that. Also, it's spread with Juneteenth in and not that Friday added. It's more even throughout the year as well, because that would put 3 days off in November, or 3 days that the library's closed in November. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, Trustee Floss.
Just real quick, I would say holidays, I don't know why it has to go by some definition that is a state or federal holiday. Every company I worked at had the day after Thanksgiving as a holiday. So I don't see why you can't call it a holiday if you want. It's if it's on the list of paid days off, it's a holiday. So I would be in favor of having day after Thanksgiving be a holiday and don't do anything special for it. I would rather change President's Day or keep it as President's Day, because that was meant to cover 2 presidents, not all the presidents. It was 2 presidents, Lincoln and Washington. And they were both different days of the week and they combined it to one. So it's we're not recognizing Lincoln by saying Washington, and President's Day is, covers both of them.
Okay, well, it seems that Lincoln and Washington are both lost, if it's a President's Day, but I'm flexible on that. How does the majority feel about, does the majority want to keep it as President's Day?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, well, so then the majority wants President's Day left as is. Yes,
Without objection.
without objection. Okay, go ahead.
One thing that trustee Robinson said, it rings true for staff. If we take away Juneteenth and we add the day after Thanksgiving, that's 3 days in November that our staff that are part-time will not earn pay, which is a very rough part of the year to have a shorter, smaller paycheck. So if you can spread that day out into June, that makes their livelihood a lot easier. And another part of this is that not everyone has wonderful, lovely family experiences or a wonderful holiday experience. And so you're assuming that everyone wants 2 days off to be with family, when in fact they might really want to go to work on Friday and be with their work family.
Okay, well, it sounds like maybe we don't have any kind of consensus. Should we postpone this until next month and gather more info?
I move that we accept this policy with the change of, keeping it as President's Day. Accept
Okay.
the policy as written, except keep President's Day.
Okay, there is actually already, a motion
Oh, you
on
did,
the
that's right.
floor, which,
Yeah.
yes. Let's see, we're on. All right, so it has been moved to suspend the rules, so we stop debate and vote on adopting the Personnel Policy Manual 5.3.6 Holiday Draft as amended, and the one amendment besides the original was leave it at President's Day. So it is 3:56, and or actually
Can I
now it's 3:57. It's
Some trustees got to speak twice.
There's no debate on motions to limit debate, so we are going to have vote now. So all those in favor?
I would like a roll call vote on this, please.
Okay, we will have a roll call vote on the motion to suspend the rules. So we stop debate and vote on adopting the Personnel Policy Manual 5.3.6 Holidays Draft as amended by 3:56 p.m. Okay, trustee Blank,
Nay.
trustee Ploss,
Aye.
trustee Robinson,
Nay.
trustee Hanley,
Aye.
and Addison is an aye. The ayes have it, and so the Personnel Policy Manual 5.3.6 Holiday Draft as amended is
I thought we were voting on limiting debate.
No, I did no.
Then don't limit debate.
All right.
And I'm a little confused about.
I read
motion,
I
'cause it
read the
said
motion.
amended. So you made a motion first and then you re-amended it because there was an amendment to change it to be President's Day, Washington Day. So I'm not sure on that. I would have to review what.
The personnel policy as amended. That's
Point of order.
But it's different than what was in the packet and proposed.
well, no, we're allowed to make changes to policy in the meeting. We always have. That would be silly if we could make any changes.
Point of order.
Draft in front of us.
I just have to-
Trustee will state her point of order.
I heard discussion of limiting debate, and you did limit debate. And that requires a motion, and that was what I was assuming that we were voting on. You limited debate, and that requires a motion.
Right, that was part of the motion.
That
And
wasn't,
we,
you-
okay, so as I said, I brought business before the board with the motion. and we
Holy
voted on it.
mackerel, I can't believe
Okay,
this.
so now we will be moving on to the next thing, which is discussion on COVID policy and April 29th, or April 29th, 2020 director's authorization. I think that we're just gonna bypass that, because everyone needs to have the policy in front of them.
Can I just request like a minute to review what the motion was so that we can get it right for this minute? I'm still confused about whether the motion actually said it was President's Day or Washington's.
Right.
And so this is the legal part that has to be recorded in the minutes correctly.
Okay,
And so if we can go over it slowly to make sure we have it.
okay, so removing Washington's birthday and just leaving it as President's Day was just majority consent to change an item.
Point of
within the
order.
Policy.
That was, the motion had already been made. The motion was clearly made when that discussion happened, and nobody
Okay.
made a motion to amend.
Okay, I will
Do
read
you want it?
read the motion slowly.
And this was.
I move to suspend the rules. So we stop debate. And vote on adopting the personnel policy manual. 5.3.6 holiday draft as amended by 356. So we had already discussed the President's Day thing prior to 356. So we were voting on whatever had been amended by 356, which is what we did. So did we get the whole motion? Shall I read it again?
I still am not understanding. So you were saying in the motion that you made at the beginning that whatever had been done before 356 was going to be what was voted on?
Yeah, the holiday draft as amended by 356.
But like I looked at my clock and it said 357 when you guys had already gone past that time limit. You guys were still talking after.
It had been,
So you
it
made
had
that
been
a-
amended by 356. We were done amending it. We were just debating over what we were gonna vote.
So you moved to suspend the rules to stop debate and vote on the personnel policy that was 5.3/6 holidays. And then I got confused, something at 356. So
Okay, so I move to suspend the rules so we can stop debate and vote on adopting the personnel policy manual 5.3.6 holiday draft as amended by 356.
Okay, holiday draft as amended.
Yes, and we have now moved on to the next section.
I
which
would
is
like
the
to,
COVID
another point of
policy.
order, please. I question whether this was done legally, and I think it needs to be looked at carefully. I do not think so. I don't think that you combined a couple of things in that motion. And also limiting debate, I think, is on its own, and then passing the motion is on its own. But I don't think it's the same, one and the same, and I'm not saying I know, because I don't. But until we do, I am questioning whether this is valid.
Okay, I have talked to.
I
what they
don't
call
care
this,
who you
certified-
talk to. And tell our
excuse me.
attorney, I'm sorry, our attorney
Okay,
needs to be giving it. I don't want to hear who you've talked to. That doesn't give me I don't have any reasonable expectation.
Okay, so we have moved on. We are no longer on that section. We are on discussion of COVID policy, and the director's authorization for unilateral COVID action. I think,
In the minute, we don't know how to edit this to make it part of our personnel manual. Like, is it Washington's birthday or President's Day? Like, I don't understand. Like, seriously.
it was President's Day. We took out the Washington.
And
Right,
that's
so-
the only thing that changed, like. we
Yes,
took
that
out-
is the only thing that changed. So
we're-
discussion on,
Like, I honestly don't know what to do.
It wasn't, so we are not being paid and we are going to be open to the public on June 19th. And then we're going to be closed and we're paying the full-time staff on this day. Like, it's yellow and red and cross through and not cross through. So you want us to edit it, take out this line, which we didn't talk about. And then this line is not yellow and edited, it goes back from the red, but we're gonna cross through on our final policy, the Juneteenth. And so, like I said, and then we're gonna leave it just like this, we're gonna.
No, we'll do the same thing that we always have with policies. Things that are crossed through are taken out. Things that are yellow are added. And so we have moved on from that discussion. We can discuss this after the meeting, rather than taking up a whole bunch of
In public?
time. Anyway, or you can just review the video. And then we're not violating any.
The video is not the legal record, our notes are, and that is why if the board does anything, we have to get it right for the legal record. And I'm concerned that we haven't consulted legal before making this change. There were some very serious allegations of racism.
Yeah, allegations don't make things true. Discussion on COVID policy. Are we in agreement that we are going to postpone that? We have majority consent to postpone that until next month, and the director will get us everyone a copy of the COVID policy. Trustee Blank?
I have a question on this. Who brought this COVID policy how did this get on the agenda?
That also was discussed at a previous meeting.
Who originally put that on the agenda?
It was brought up at the end of the meeting, and I put it on the agenda because one of the comments was that the best time really to deal with this was while it's still cold and flu season, which we are merging out of. So
this wasn't a request by staff. This was once again a request.
No, this was
by
a request by the board.
I don't remember that request.
Okay, well, you made a comment about it at the time, so I distinctly remember you being there on that day when we discussed putting it on a future agenda. We just didn't decide when. Trustee Robinson?
Just to be clear though, this paper here, if you don't mind looking at it, does that go with the COVID discussion? It's a past meeting, because I see like Bob Fish's name on there.
Oh, yes, I believe so.
So that would go with,
Yeah.
okay.
All right, so do we have the majority? Yes.
If we're gonna postpone this motion, I would like to put on the recording, just for the benefit of the board for preparing for next session. We reviewed all the meeting minutes that that mention the COVID policy. The COVID policy is not available online with the board's policy. There are discussions in the minutes about amending a policy. March 19, 2020, April 2, 2020, April 16, 2020, April 29, 2020, June 18, 2020, October 14, 2021, May 21, 2020, that's out of order, sorry, because I was pulling from a different deal. July 16, 2020, August 20, 2020, August 27, 2020, September 17, 2020, October 15, 2020, November 17, 2020, December 17th, 2020, January 21, 2021, February 18, 2021, March 18, 2021, April 15, 2021, March 17, 2021, August 19, 2021.
What are these dates?
These are dates where the COVID-19 policy or action was mentioned. So if you want to review it in prep, you will know which minutes to go to, so you don't have to search through.
And who found these?
My staff and I looked through.
So your staff and you took this time to look up the different times in, obviously 2020 was a big time for COVID. Your staff took the time to look up all the different agenda dates for COVID?
Well, I had to ask.
For why?
The director to do it. She said that she couldn't.
Because you just asked me yesterday, 25 hours before the meeting, and you've already given me a mountain of work. So you asked me to do all this work in less than 25 hours.
August 26, 2021, September 23rd, 2021, November 18, 2021, December 16, 2021. And then I have a list of dates in the year 2022 as well, if you'd like this information and review to amend the COVID-19 policy.
Yes, it would be good to have a list of all those dates. So, Trustee Claus?
No, my hand was up first.
Oh, okay.
Can we please have all of those dates sent to us? And they are available on the website. And somebody's gonna give us the policy, right? If we can find it.
I got a copy of it. I can get with the director and, trustee Claus.
Why do I care about anything that was discussed in all these meetings? I just want to look at the policy and take out the COVID part because it's not applicable anymore. Or make the changes. Why are we spending time looking at dozens and dozens of meeting minutes or agenda items?
Okay, so can we postpone this next month?
But why do I need to look at them?
Because, well, everyone at the very least needs to see the COVID policy itself.
That's all I
Not
care about.
Apparently, everyone has.
Can I answer?
All right, so trustee Blake.
There may have been some discussion that would have changed that policy in a legal board meeting, and the attorney is shaking his head, yes. So that is why it needs to be looked at.
Shaking his head.
Oh, sorry, nodding his head. You are absolutely correct, trustee Claus.
Okay, so, postpone to next month? Yes.
We can
Okay.
postpone, but I don't know why, I still don't know why I need to look at it, because if the policy is what it is, that's what we need to change. It really doesn't
Right,
matter
because
what was
everybody-
discussed.
Right, because everyone needs a copy of the policy first, and that wasn't.
Yeah, that's all I care about, yeah.
So, okay, so we have 3 yeses, any nos?
Yeah, for postponing and
Yeah.
getting an actual copy of the existing policy.
We have a current one.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so the next item is, discussion on assignment and delivery of legal reports in general. So legal reports keep being added to the agenda or assigned to our legal counsel, which were not requested by the trustees. This is sure to massively drive up our legal costs, and I'm sure that that will be blamed on the board, when in fact it's not at the board's request to have these legal reports done. I'd like to protect the budget, by proposing that legal reports are only assigned and or on the agenda if there is a majority consent by the board, or it is an important emergency, because I understand that sometimes things will come up. Trustee Blake?
Who put this on the agenda? How did this get on the agenda?
I put it on the agenda.
Okay, so
As chair is my right to do. Okay.
I'm not asking that. I'm just asking who put it on the agenda. So this will be the third item that just you have put on the agenda. The other thing I would like to say is, are you saying that legal reports can only be requested by the board, that you are now absolutely tying the hands of the director in terms of having any kind of legal report from the attorney?
No, I'll read it again. That legal reports only be assigned and or on the agenda if there is a majority consent or majority consent by the board, or it is an important emergency. So if it can't wait until the next month, if, there's life, limb, or financial loss, then absolutely, I would want her to do that. Anyway, trustee Claus?
So I need clarification on what legal reports we're getting that we're not asking for, but I think it's when we have trustee education or the time for the legal counsel and we get presented court cases or presented information on what courts are doing. Is that what you're talking about?
No, these were legal reports requested by staff, and they were not approved by the board. Trustee Hammer?
I just have to laugh.
So-
What?
Just want to make sure.
Are you kidding me?
So we're not saying that the library staff or library director does not have access to legal counsel.
Yes, you
And I
are.
was concerned because that somehow I remember something where I did hear, I don't know which meeting it was, that the library director felt she wasn't getting access to legal counsel anymore. Are we just saying that we're not gonna be tasking legal counsel with providing a verbal or written report to the board? Is that what we're trying to say? We're gonna not do that unless the majority of the board says yes?
If the majority of the board says yes, or if it's, an urgent, important emergency, just because legal reports, they're typically a written report and they require a lot of research.
Expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. And like I said, I'm sure that will be blamed on the board. I'm just looking to protect the budget. So, Trustee Robinson?
Like, yeah, I'm not 100%, I maybe am 90% sure what is meant by legal reports. I do believe that, from time to time, when a, request for documents from the public, what is that actually called?
Public records
Records
request.
Yeah. I believe sometimes, that has to go to legal, for approval or, some sort of redaction. Is that included in this, that the director would not be able to have legal counsel her on, what's it?
FOIA,
Yes,
Freedom of Information.
there you go. Is it, yeah,
It's a Public Records Act request.
yes.
Under Idaho.
You're all right.
FOIA's for federal.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was trying to, okay, thank you. And then that's what, anyway, would that not be allowed by the director? Because is that a legal report from the council to the director? I don't know.
Trustee Blank, do you want to make your comment while they're?
Yeah, I think we need to be very, very clear what the definition of legal reports is.
And
And I will tell you this, that there is nobody on this board who is as well versed in what is legal for a library. And I dare say, probably even better than our attorney, than our directors. And that's typically how it's been. The director is the person who keeps this board out of trouble. And if the director cannot have direct access to the attorney and and ask for reports and things to be sent back, then you are throttling the director. You are limiting what the director is able to do legally, and you are putting this board at incredible risk, incredible risk.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to limit you getting advice or asking a question. So yeah, we probably should have the definition of legal report. Director?
Just some thoughts to start. I fear this motion and, a lot further communication or conversation on this, should be reviewed by legal counsel. I believe this is jeopardizing my attorney-client relationship and my representation for the entity. And it already appears to me, from my experience, that board matters have taken precedence over response to operational concerns, which I find concerning. And I think if the council has been notified of my concern about this infringement on my attorney-client relationship and he does nothing, he could be found negligent by not making sure that I have access to legal counsel to further the work that I need to do, which is represent the entity and take care of operational matters. I think before the board launches into, fear mode of managing the budget, I did mention that we are well over the $800,000 carry forward and we received $500,000. So there is not right now, if the board chooses to put funds towards legal, a crisis in our operational budget. So I don't think there's a legitimate rational basis for this statement at this point. I think that the board should review the invoices, and I'm happy to forward to the board the invoices from general counsel to review what the topics are, so that they have more information it sounds like the chair is saying that I don't have judgment and that I can't determine independently what is a risk to the entity and what needs a second opinion from counsel. I find that undermining and again, disruptive to my attorney-client privilege and disruptive of my ability to represent the entity. I will say, I'm just looking at this last month's invoice, research and analyze reporting requirements under federal and state law. No. And again, reviewing legal report, financial management policy. These are all legitimate assignments for council. So unless there's something very clear about what legal reports, if you want to call me out and say that I have spent funds on legal expenses that were unnecessary, that I acted for frivolous and reckless and with no intention of the district's best interests. I mean, that's what I hear in this motion, and I find it absolutely astounding. The council has averaged, I think I presented that $4,000, somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000, and then this last month happened to be larger than that. Some of the items were related to board business, so you may not have requested his expertise, but on your behalf, I did. There's concerns about public procurement and insurance. And I will say that I'm also concerned that typically general counsel for the entity, when they receive a request for information, they distribute that information to everyone. And apparently there was a request for legal counsel from the chair, and he has information, and I don't know if this is his first presenting of the information or if he's already sent in advance the information to one trustee, but not all trustees. I would have concern about that. I have concern that what you're saying is that Mr. Boyles and Boyles Law is the board's counsel and that it's not entity counsel. If you want your own attorney and you want to manage your budget for your attorney, fine. But to say that you're going to jeopardize the entity because you're worried about a couple dollars is outrageous. And where is the financial and fiduciary responsibility in that?
Okay, you're assuming a lot about my motives, which is actually, I think according to Robert's rules, isn't supposed to be done. But I think that what we need to hear from is legal counsel. Does this in fact make it so she can't ask you questions or get counsel from you?
I'm not sure. My notes don't necessarily reflect what the motion is. I've heard urgent, important, emergency, and majority of the board related to assignment delivery of legal reports. I will say that I don't think any of the directors' engagements with my firm have been inappropriate or in excess, nor do I think the board's interaction have either. We can always improve our process, and I'm open to having those discussions to do that. There are very important legal issues we are grappling with right now, cutting edge First Amendment issues, public presentation, disruption issues, procurement related to a loss that's potentially over our coverage limits. It's not entirely clear how to handle those. Our recommendation right now is if it touches a public dollar at all, it needs to go through an RFQ process. And these are revolving, in addition to employment matters, which we can't discuss here. And a lot of these are revolving matters that the director needs to, only has a snapshot of, and she may need to re-engage on an issue. And I think it may make it unworkable for her to achieve her objective within the operational sphere of the director's role if she is going to be required to have a majority vote just to engage with counsel. So I would caution the board on going past that line in terms of the authority to have a constituent member of the entity reach out to counsel. Certainly there's a process in our employment practices manual related to investigations and where employee complaints or whistleblower complaints need to go. I don't think the board should sidestep that. And so I would have concerns about how the motion is worded, significant concerns depending on what the debate leads to, if it's going to interfere with the director's role as the director to seek legal advice, whether it's from me or the board has the board attorney or however that ends up. But I think there's a sphere for the board and a sphere for the director. The board has budgetary authority over that. And that's really the conversation I think that we need to have.
I have a point of order. Is there a motion on the table? Did you make a?
No, I did not make a motion. I was just hoping for general agreement, but it sounds like it's not advisable at this time. So debate is how we get to truth, and I don't have all truth. So it's good for us to have this discussion and get other perspectives, and I'm okay with being corrected. Anyway, so I will drop the subject and we need to move on because we're at other times.
Certainly, the board can decide how it wants to engage with me. If you want a written report distributed to all the board members each time an individual board member has a question, the client gets to determine the client's privilege, right? And so we have to treat all communications to us generally as confidential. And so the board can decide how it wants to work that. And I would recommend we maybe agendize that item and discuss it.
Sure.
Yes, trustee Claus.
I thought this agenda item actually was going to include that because I brought that up and we had some discussion a month ago on how to present the data or present the findings that the council wanted. But that's not what this is about.
No.
This, I would like to have that. I'll bring that up. I would like to finish that because we kind of dropped it. But I would like to have reports.
Okay, all right, so is it super fast or like way over time?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, Mr. Boyles and I often discuss and have on the agenda like a legal discussion or a time for him to speak, and I would encourage that. And he's actually, if he doesn't mind me saying, he can kick me, but he has some things planned. If that's fair enough, that he would like to, it's kind of like the director's report. I have things that I feel like I need to tell you. He has things that he feels like he needs to tell you. And so I would just really encourage not removing that from the agenda like that happened this time, that we continue to give him time.
Not removing what from the agenda?
It says legal report.
Okay.
And it came after director's report and it was removed this time. And again, 15 minutes. I know it's expensive, but I think it's of best interest of the entity.
Okay, so we will move on to the next section, which is discussion on internet use safety policy. Anyway, it's supposed to be reviewed every 3 years, and so it's past time on that. To the director, I'd say if there's no change in law, we could just pass it today, but if there's changes in laws, then I'm hoping that you could make the simplest changes possible so that we can pass it soon.
I have a question.
Okay, okay, yeah, so I would like the director to answer that, but trustee Blank, you were next.
Wait. I can wait.
Oh, okay, well, because it doesn't have to.
Was this requested by staff on the agenda? Who put this on the agenda?
I put it on the agenda because it's legally required to be reviewed every
So,
3 years. and
Yeah, but I thought that the staff brought policies and we are just loaded with stuff on here and we don't have time to talk about some important things. And so it's like, can these items be brought for, if an A trustee wants to put something on the agenda, can they be brought forth in the agenda time? Because this may not be the most important policy that the staff wants to discuss.
No,
Can it be a joint decision, not just a Rochelle decision?
oh, actually, we did discuss it. I did discuss it with staff. So I just didn't want to be in any kind of legal trouble for not being reviewed within 3 years, because it is legally required. So I figured that the sooner we get that done, the better. Anyway, director, your recommendation going forward?
So again, I think because the board has handled policy review and edits adoption differently, my question was going to be, did you want a committee to review this policy? Do you want staff to make recommendations? I will say this particular policy cites quite a few, it says Idaho code and the federal acts and different things. I can do a review, but I would recommend legal counsel review after I've done a review for any other changes, because it has such specific citations, to see if those have changed since 2021. I again struggle with the process for insurance procurement, the facilities. There are a considerable amount of policies. One, and prioritization is still a struggle for this board. So another item was added, and we continue to move other items and policies forward without completing them. And so I guess if the board wants to, as a group or as a majority, give me feedback of when they would expect this draft, or is it next meeting, or we're talking about, I mentioned earlier, we're gonna be doing an audit and we're gonna be doing budget things. There's quite a bit. So where does this fit, in terms of expectation and timeline? And then I guess my other point would be maybe, we have so many policies, and I feel like maybe our agenda should reflect old business and new business. And maybe we could work towards getting some of the items off the old business and put them higher on the agenda so we can actually get them done. So I'm just in terms of organizing the agenda and policies and adding more work. If the board wants me to review this, I think I can bring something back in 3 months. That would put us April, May, June, right in the budget season and a lot of other things, but a consideration.
Okay, yeah, I personally don't care when it's done. I just didn't want the library to be in trouble for not having, I mean, if it's just like the 3rd calendar year, then yeah, we could wait months and months. Trustee Emily?
Is the urgency on the review just based upon the fact we review our policies every 3 years, or is there a statutory requirement that this be reviewed, because it probably involves federal money for all I know? I don't know. What is the catalyst or impetus for this being reviewed now? Because I would like to close a few policies out that we've been juggling around a while, but but if we have a statutory requirement to do this, then I don't think it's really negotiable.
Yeah, I believe it's a statutory requirement, so it's not just at the end of the policy, it says it shall be reviewed, it's required by law. Mr. Claus?
So this is one in particular that I myself would be in favor of having the staff go through and do all the changes, that notifications they've received or laws that have changed that need updated. I don't know that we need to, or we have any expertise in doing that. The one that I am bothered with that I would like to have some feedback on is prohibited activities. Number 1, under the examples, viewing obscene materials, child pornography, materials harmful to minors, defined by Idaho Code and Child Internet Protection Act. So this Idaho Code, it's got those words in it when taken as a whole. And I don't know how you do that when you're looking at an internet site that's got obscene pictures right there. It just plain old should be blocked. So if we have any freedom, I don't want to follow Idaho Code, and I want to change. I want to say for our library, don't laugh. This is our library network, and our taxpayers do not want children looking at obscene material on the internet. And if it doesn't get covered by Idaho Code, I want to add to that sentence. I'm not saying take it out, but I do have a very strong view on number 1, that maybe it's not sufficient.
Okay, so let's remember to debate and civilly. Anyway,
On that, because I think I was just asked to commit a crime.
No.
Yeah, that's how it works.
I didn't say, look,
You asked me to read a policy,
look.
it doesn't come
Idaho
out.
Code says you can look at something, and when taken as a whole, it's okay. And it doesn't say anything about not looking at something that says that. I want to add to it. I did not say we were going to violate Idaho Code. I said add to it replace that. I do not want minors looking at obscene material on the internet. And I suspect Idaho code allows it. Because librarians will say, when taken as a whole, it was okay.
Okay, so let's remember that one person, one trustee does not command the director. So he wasn't commanding you, he was just stating his opinion. And I think, that's, like I said, that's how we arrive at truth, is by debating things in a different perspective. So it's okay for him to have, it's okay for every one of us to have an opinion that others don't agree with. So we debate and arrive at truth. Just Blake.
What I heard is, that we don't have to follow Idaho code. That is what I heard. And I don't know what was said, but I would like to say that this trustee does not agree with that. We absolutely need to follow Idaho code. And I just want to be clear that this trustee wants to follow Idaho code.
Sure.
Okay, so our time is just about up for this. I think we need to have majority consent direction for the director. She wanted to know, do we want her to do it? So Trustee Claus, you had mentioned that, and I think that she would be the best person to do that. She knows the laws and the library world. So we have a third.
When is the expectation that there's too much work?
What's the
I would say at her discretion. I mean, if we aren't really up against a legal, then
I think if you're working on it, we are putting it and we're working on it. I think that's a defense for, have you read that particular statute? It does say every 3 years, and it is time and timely, and we are making effort, so. But there is risk, and that would be.
okay, so are you ready, or should I call on someone else?
It's really quick. I think that there is an importance to have a calendar, to have things calendared. And I know that the director has brought that up several times. On that calendar would be policies and when they need to be looked at, and a time frame to get them done and updated. So again, it's been mentioned so many times to this board that we need to have a calendar. And for some reason, I don't know why, it is a lot of pushback on that. It's just like, and when we have a calendar, because in the past when we had calendars, we're not like tied to it. Like if, you have to get it done on that month, but at least it's a visual and you can see what's coming up. And then again, it makes it a little bit easier to have an agenda that's a little more efficient.
Okay, council?
Just going to comment that the federal law requires, and through FCC regulations, that this certification process is tied to the receipt of the E-rate funding. And so part of it is a grant assurance that if we fail to do it, it will affect the budget. And so I think it's appropriate to have the director present it at her discretion within the timeline required by statute. Between the two of us, we can figure out what that is and have that done timely.
Okay, all right, so we will be moving on to the next item, number 16. Periodic acquisition reports, CLN January and February 2024. Trustee Henley.
Again, some more prepared remarks. I want to quickly address the CIN denial of the overdrive book. That's part of this report. That was the ebooks and the audio books report. Just so it's known, the only information that was provided in an email to the board on February 22nd was an email that just said the report was denied. And there was no other explanation at that time. Upon reviewing the content of a subsequent meeting, that was on March 6th, that was a special meeting, we did learn that the library pays for what is called a platform fee, or what they call content. I put those in quotes, they're not words I'm familiar with. And that these purchases are owned by the CIN, they're not assigned to any particular library. And so no library staff are selecting on behalf of the CLN when purchases in overdrive are made. So I suppose it's some type of package purchase deal, providing patrons with access to ebooks. It's some kind of a package deal, I assume. What I do find mysterious is the explanation that, and there was another thing in the minutes of the last meeting, staff that order are purchasing for the CIN network, and it's a shared resource. I'm just kind of curious, which staff is that? And who's making these purchase decisions? I'm not saying they're bad either. But it'll be interesting because I don't see any staff on the budget for the CIN. So there is no CIN staff. So anyway, but if the board concurs, I'm amenable to dropping the overdrive portion of the periodic, have it not included anymore in the periodic report, because it sounds like it's a problem. And I don't know what percentage of the collection as a whole is overdrive. And I think we could focus instead, if the board would agree, just on the regular hard copy materials that are purchased for the CLN specifically. And so at that same March 6th meeting, the library director indicated that a new periodic acquisitions report would be not exactly what we're looking for, and I understand that. And if the board asked for something about information to be sorted by age or sorted by other factors and other things, and those were quotes there. Additionally, there are not currently there is no report in COA that produces the information presented in that manner. And as the director indicated, it is possible for the library to pay for what they call custom programming. And for us, to have them create, I guess, the folks at COA, to create a report that's sorted, the features are sorted the way the board would like to see the information presented to them. So not knowing what we were going to get today, and I see we do have something from the staff regarding this report, I'm going to give out a draft report I made. This is kind of reflecting what I had envisioned, and then we can look at what was actually passed out by the board. So hopefully this reduces my particular version here, any confusion or need for additional clarity. So I did type up a sample report. I'll pass that out. And that's pretty much what I have to say on this subject.
Director, did you have anything to say about the report?
Yes.
Or no purple and there's, I don't know, up in the bottom. Received it from the.
So on your table, you have the 2 months of
Well,
purchases
data.
for CIN. I did provide a little bit of a cover letter for you. This is currently report number 990. It lists items added by date and library, and it's sorted by date added. And then there's some other notations for you, just in reviewing the information. If the location is the shelving location within the library, I'm sorry, location, it says location. It's the shelving location within the library, so adult, young adult, juvenile. If cart is listed as the location, it means the items that was just returned at the time the report was run. Cart will automatically update in 24 hours after it's checked in. If there's no barcode listed, then the item is in on order status and is yet to be received. An interlibrary loan, so borrowed books from outside of our district, outside of the state, in the nation, are included in this report, but they're temporarily added to the system while they're in use. So you will see a reference to interlibrary loan, and we may not own them, but we have borrowed them on behalf of a patron. So when I was referencing the report like this, so this took, so we have to go by each individual library. So printing this out took a couple of hours. It is possible to do reports like this, but again, it's significant staff time manipulating sheets and deleting columns and doing things in order to put it in this way. And so taking staff time every month to do this would not be my recommendation. And Trustee Hanley did, I think, fairly accurately describe some of the comments I made last meeting. My recommendation would be for the board to state clearly how they're using this, what their business need is, and then we can create a custom report so that essentially she runs one report and a list is generated in the manner that you want it. And that would cost a little bit of money, but in the long run, if you plan on getting these reports regularly, would be a staff savings, a technological efficiency. So it is possible to do this. However, this is how the report comes out. And I would, consider not knowing how this is going to be used and how important this is in terms of looking at the department and the staffing, I would prefer not to spend staff time, and I would prefer to review a technical option that would allow this report to be run regularly, and it's in the format that you want.
Trustee Henley?
What I'm envisioning here is someone that knows how to program COA, meaning probably from the COA folks themselves, to create this ad hoc report. And once it's designed, it's handed back to the CLN, and then the CLN can simply just use the report over and over and over again. They don't recreate anything, and basically say what purchases were made between date X and date X, and have it broken out exactly in the format that's programmed in there. Again, I'm not a programming guy, but I understand how programs work. I have written programs way long time ago. And if this material, according to the COA software, or when I go to the website, you can also make certain functions in COA accessible to the public. And so if the public was given access to run a report, they can either run a report, either print it or look at it online, and just, so anyway, I think it just needs, and the website does say COA has robust reporting capabilities, something to that effect. So once this ad hoc report is created, it's simply then just a matter of running it, in my opinion. It does not appear to be, I've asked for all kinds of programming things in the past in different jobs, and once a program is designed and the report, then it's just simply run.
Did you get a chance to look at it?
No, no,
Okay,
it's 6, Nick, it's big.
so I would take a look at it, and then I know we don't have a
Yeah.
lot of time today, and we got a lot of other important
I'll do that.
topics. I would say take a look at this, and if it works for you, then leave it.
Right.
If not, I'll get a quote from COA to find out how much it would cost. Everything gets on a quote basis, and so I would recommend, we're gonna talk about this again every 2 months. So I'll bring this back in 2 months. You'll let me know in 2 months if this works. Is that?
Okay, yeah,
Well, we can
I would
let
like
her know.
the quote on COHA. I think that's a good idea.
We can,
This is good too. I mean, I will say, this is exactly what you're asking for. It's every new title, and it tells you the title, the author, the location, and when we added it. And it tells you by location. So it is, and then additionally, I will say that our public catalog does everything. You can run reports, you can create lists, all of this information is available on the public side. Takes a little digging, and you have to have some knowledge on how to do it, but it's all publicly available as well, so.
Okay, Trustee Blouse?
so I would like this electronically in a spreadsheet. I'd like to have the ability to sort based on location and look at all the, team, whatever. I'd also, having it in a paper copy is maybe one available to the board, but I would like it to be sent out to us on an electronic copy so we can look at it. I guess I was gonna ask the date accessioned, is that the date that was purchased? Accessioned?
Yes.
Okay.
So these reports have to be run individually per location. So the electronic version of this would just be a PDF, and it wouldn't necessarily be Excel and sorted in the way that you're wanting.
Can it be exported into Excel? That's what I would ask. And then looking at this, I guess where do I see what library it is? Or you're saying it goes by library, but are they somehow in an order or something by library? Where does it say that?
They're alphabetical, so it'll do the apple first.
When does Post Fall, or when does Athol end and whatever the next one is?
It starts with the A's again, or with the January 1st, the date of session.
Again, so my goal is really not to spend a lot of staff time, if at all possible. So I would rather automate it, or you tell me exactly. I think the board should review this document and see if it works for whatever their business need is.
Okay, so our time is up for that. Do we have consensus on her just getting a quote, not purchasing anything, but?
I
No?
never got called on. I had my hand up so many times. This one keeps getting called on.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
If you can do it quick.
Well, first off, I don't,
Ask
One
him
minute.
back.
I,
Ask all trustees to be quick if you're gonna
I
ask.
don't see the alphabetical order. Is that under title?
No, it's date order. It's the
Okay.
date order.
Okay. And then also, if this is the way that it's gonna stay, maybe, under location, I can tell what some of those are, but maybe if it's the way it's gonna stay, there can be a key to, these different acronyms. Well, some of them are there, but not all, I don't think.
I have something I'd like to say.
Thank you.
It's really
Okay.
important. I
Okay,
really,
but just know that you are consenting to extending the meeting at the end.
could you please also say that to every single trustee and not just Vanessa and myself.
Okay, I'm not sure that you had.
I am very uncomfortable with you asking for a report and to pay for it when we haven't even agreed what that report needs to be or what the business purpose is. And I have concerns even about this small one that I'm not bringing up now because of the very packed agenda. But I do not want the board chair just demanding that we go get a quote from Koha. That may be what we decide, but we haven't decided what we're going to do yet. So could we, could we just try to talk about it again?
Yeah, we can discuss it again in 2 months, I guess, and I wasn't demanding that she do anything.
That's what I heard.
I was seeing if there was a majority consensus on that.
No,
So,
yeah, it's not until we know what we're doing.
okay, yeah, like
Yeah.
10 seconds.
Yeah, real fast. I think we can decide, looking at this at home, what report, if we like this one that was provided, or the one I produced, or something in between. But I don't think we should wait 2 months. We can decide that next month, because the next report is in two months. So we don't need to wait 2 months to look at these two versions. So I propose
Okay.
we do it. Okay, go ahead.
So we just postpone the rest of this discussion until next month. All right, so the next one, number 17, Apple and Post Falls Facilities Update. Director, take it away.
I just will start by saying that I will try to get this done in 10 minutes, but I have prepared several pages to cover.
Could you summarize? Because we can read.
This is the most important item on the agenda.
Oh, you say that every time.
Yeah,
I think
it
it's
is.
important that the community here as well as the board, so I'm going to try to read as quickly as I can.
Is there something in the table packet that goes along with what you're about to?
Yes, I printed it for you.
Thank you.
So the first page is Apple Library. I did include a history. The event occurred on January 16, 2024. Bill 4 began mitigation work immediately. Extracting water and drying the facility occurred on the same day. Bill 4 mitigation costs have been finalized at $56,443.95. Emergency electrical modifications were made to safely operate the building and equipment during mitigation. Electrical costs have been finalized at $3,223.03. Temporary storage began March 11, 2024 for storing materials for Athol and Post Falls Library. ICRIM paid CLN 2 months lease cost in advance, $8,760 to begin. A prorated first month payment was made by CLN. The first full payment is due April 1st, 2024. Currently, Compass Construction and Service Pro have begun content moving work. Contents removal pack out costs have been quoted for $47,801.21 and pack back costs of $45,979.93. ICRIM paid CLN full contents moving bid of $93,781.14. The first payment will be $23,900.60. Furniture removal work has been scheduled for March 21st. CLN prefers to use a specialized heavy-duty box. Compass placed a $1,500 box order and will begin packing books once delivered, approximately 7 to 10 days after order. Compass Construction submitted a repair estimate to ICRIM in the amount of $197,848.08. It is being reviewed by the adjuster and NKA construction cost estimators. Once reviewed and approved, it will be submitted to ICRIM for approval. Staff estimate submitting to ICRIP on March 29th, the replacement cost estimate for business property, materials, and books. Repair construction timeline is estimated to run 10 to 12 weeks for this phase. Contents will be reinstalled in the facility. If repair work begins early April, a rough timeline will be the library's reopening in mid-July. Service restoration. Staff are actively planning local service options for the Athol community. The goal is for the library's lobby, meeting room, and restroom accessible 15 to 25 hours a week, beginning the week of April, end of April, beginning of May. The library's bookmobile has been returned from the repair shop. A service stop will be scheduled for the Athol community. This will increase the collection offerings in the short term. The bookmobile stop during summer reading may be off-site and complementary to summer programming. The public will be able to place holds, pick up items on hold, sign up for summer reading and library cards, browse new materials, and more at both the library and on the bookmobile. The library's website and the Athol Book Return are both available 24/7. Wi-Fi and printing will be available, as well as a limited number of laptops with internet access. Post Falls Library history. The freeze event occurred on January 14, 2024. Belfour began mitigation work immediately. Extracting water and drying the facility occurred on the same day. Belfour mitigation costs have been finalized at $77,230.50. Emergency electrical modifications were made to safely operate the building and equipment during mitigation. Electrical costs have been finalized at $8,687.75. Fire suppression repairs were made. Costs have been finalized at $3,665.70. Temporary storage began March 11th for storing of materials at both Athol and Post Falls. Currently, a mixture of library staff and volunteers are packing computers, books, and more to remove all contents. As of March 20th, over 1,000 boxes of the 6,000 boxes have been packed and moved off-site. The library received an epic response from the community, with almost 150 volunteers expressing a desire to help. Volunteer groups have signed up to help the Post Falls Library include local businesses such as Mountain West Bank and Avista, as well as a Boy Scout troop. A fundraising book sale and event was offered by the Friends of the Post Falls Library on March 15th and 16th. It garnered over $5,000 in book sale proceeds and donations. Compass Construction submitted a repair estimate to ICRIP in the amount of $504,000. The repair estimate has been reviewed and accepted by the adjuster and MKA, the construction cost estimators, and is currently pending approval by ICRIP. It is anticipated to take several months for staff to submit to ICRIP the full replacement cost estimate for business property and materials and books for the Post Falls Library, which would include up to 7,100 items. Repair construction timeline is estimated to run 6 months for this phase. If repair work begins in April, a rough timeline for reopening the Post Falls Library is now fall or winter of 2024. Service restoration. All dates are estimates and will be more final once a contractor is hired and further details emerge. Staff are actively planning local service options for the Post Falls community. The goal is for the library's lobby, meeting rooms, and restrooms accessible and open 49 hours a week to start once content removal and demo have been completed. This is likely to begin in early May and is likely to end around September. Post Falls Library service will require a planned brief suspension at some point to allow library staff to labor and unpack 6,300 boxed items. The library's bookmobile has been returned. A service stop will be scheduled for the Post Falls community. This will increase the collection offerings in the short term. The bookmobile stop during summer reading may be off-site and complementary to summer programming. Bookmobile service will begin in Post Falls in April and is estimated to run through the fiscal year ending in September. The public will be able to place holds, pick up items on hold, sign up for summer reading and library cards, browse new materials, and more at the library and on the bookmobile. The library's website and the Post Falls Book Return are available 24/7. Wi-Fi printing will be available as well. Wi-Fi and printing will be available as well, with limited numbers of laptops with internet access. Staffing. Staffing expenditure remains in line with the current fiscal year budget. Seal employs a limited number of staff working 10 hours or less, including some referred to as on-call. The library's current need for work from staff in this classification is being monitored closely with vacancies in this classification not being filled. The administration has no current plans to reduce the number of part-time or full-time staff working 19 to 40 hours. On March 4th, staff from Hayden, Athol, and Post Falls began work on the Post Falls Pack and Move project. Committees and project leads were assigned, including CLN's collection development manager, branch managers from Post Falls and Athol, and the facility director, administration, youth and adult service coordinators. The team includes almost all staff assigned to Post Falls and Athol libraries. The project is currently ahead of schedule and due to the staff's strong effort could result in repairs beginning sooner and ultimately the restoration of services earlier than estimated. The PAC portion of the Post Falls Pack and Move project is anticipated to end in April. The unpacked portion of the Post Falls Pack and Move project is anticipated to begin in September, October. Post Falls Library Service will require a planned brief suspension at some point to allow staff to labor and unpack the 6,300 boxed items. Staff are additionally needed and being assigned to select, order, create purchase orders, and organize the required ICRIM documentation for claim payment. Once replacement materials are ordered, staff will be assigned to process each material, which means adding barcodes, labels, plastic covers, etc., and adding to the library's catalog and inventory system. CLN currently adds 1,300 to 2,000 items per month. The replacement purchases will more than double the current workload, potentially increasing the added items by 7,100 items over approximately 3 months. Athol Library staff will be busy providing lobby service Tuesday through Saturday each week. Post Falls Library staff will be busy providing lobby service Sunday through Saturday each week. The library's outreach department will begin bookmobile service again with a new schedule of stops. The final page is the Post Falls and Athol's budget information. As I outlined, the Athol repairs, the business property and materials was 30 items, and I'm hoping to have a quote for that by the end of next week. This, not including the books and business and personal property loss, leaves us under the claim limit by $639,000. The Post Falls project, again, outlines all of those items I expressed. I do have an estimate for content moving that has just been an estimate, and it does not include the 7,100 items, but is still leaving us $327,000 for possible business property expenses.
Okay, and we are over time for that, and so we'll move on to trustee education.
Wait a second.
quick
We
question.
really need to talk about this. We really need to be able to have questions about this. I mean, trustees practically screamed at our director last time for not being able to get enough information, and now you're limiting that. But you don't have a problem with trustees screaming at her.
Okay, so if we go over time, I'm in trouble.
Can we
If I
not
try
put
to
something
limit it,
off?
I'm speaking. If I try to follow the agenda, I'm in trouble. No matter what, people are going to fault find. And anyway, since I'm gonna be in trouble no matter what, I guess we can just postpone more discussion on that until next month. We'll have questions. We will move on to.
And this is what the trustees wanted to know. They demanded it at the last meeting. They were screaming at the director. for not-
Screaming.
No.
That's how it appeared to me, because she was not giving them the information they wanted.
Okay, trustee Henley, do you have a quick question?
No, I kind of agree. Believe it or not, Katie, I kind of agree we need to discuss this a little bit. This is the biggest event that went on in the library as far as catastrophes, we'll call it. And I don't have a lot of questions, but I'm thrilled to see that we might be coming in on our budget for both, and we knew that for Athol, but unless there's some unknown big number for Post Falls, have at it. I like the fact we're maybe providing services temporarily of some sort, and unless there's some other major unknown number here, I don't want to micromanage this project at all. If we're gonna be within budget with insurance coverage, I have no other comments on it.
Okay, so I guess everyone can have one comment if they have to. Trustee Claus?
I have to pull up my camera shot of your board last meeting, but right now, I'm a little confused how you saved 500,000 on Post Falls, how we got it down, because it looked like it was gonna go over. And there was some donation. I don't see where, so you listed out things like 1,500 boxes for Apple, and I don't see where the cost of that is. And I don't know whether you've bundled some of that together. And then I also just wanted to ask why, Post Falls service restoration, well, actually for both. Athol, you said public's gonna be able to place books on hold and Wi-Fi be available, but you didn't say when, and I don't know if that meant April, beginning of May, when there's gonna be restrooms available. So maybe you can clarify that, and then the kind of the same question on Post Falls, when is this temporary service gonna be available? It sounds like September, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, when is the temporary services available?
Director, did you have a quick?
Yeah.
answer?
I'll just say a couple of things. I mentioned that the reason why the project is doing well financially is really, I'm gonna say 100% on the staff. I mentioned that we had received a quote for pack out and pack back of Post Falls of like $340,000. You'll see here that the content moving is now, I think, $58,000. That is possible because staff achieved, again, a $75,000 to $100,000 no donation from the movers. Everything from the lighting, we were able to receive a donation of free lighting to replace the broken lighting. We talked with our electrician, they reduced their quote. So these are heavily influenced by the donations that staff were able to achieve and the generosity of this community. So that's why it's looking better from a financial picture. There's at least $500,000 of donations that is coming through from this community. So again, thank the community and the staff.
Okay, thank you, community. So Blake or Robinson, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, I was curious about, I understand how Athol will be providing service, but I'm a little confused about what happens with Post Falls. Are we not able to use the meeting room or that side until September? Is that what you're saying?
No, and it does kind of talk about that in here, but I do not want to begin operations for the public or staff in the facility in the demo portion of the project. I'd like for them to do that part, to do the mitigation if that's required, and then open it after that.
So does that?
And so, no.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
No,
That's what I thought it said.
I mean, again, I don't know when the Post Falls construction award is probably gonna be sooner than the Alpha one because it's already waiting on ICRIP. Once that's determined and approved and they can get started working, then I can talk with the contractor about when they're gonna come in and do demo. I strongly believe that we should wait through demo before we open up service so we know what we're dealing with. And so Post Falls will be opened after the demo phase of construction, and it will include the lobby and again, bookmobile service that may be not on site, but around the community. It'll be a combination. Bookmobile service will begin sooner in Post Falls because it isn't required to be in the building. And whether that'll be in our building or in a park or is still being reviewed by staff for the best locations in serving Post Falls. So bookmobile service will start earlier now in Post Falls in April, and then I'm hoping in May, but we're ahead of schedule, so it could be sooner.
Okay, Robinson, do you?
Yes. Three quick things. First, I definitely want to say thank you to the staff and the volunteers. I think some are even in this room that have stepped up to help. I want to clarify that there are 6,300 boxes, not 63,000. Because on the printout it says, I just want to make sure that all the trustees
Oh,
got that.
There's 6,000 boxes, there's 63,000 books.
Oh, okay.
So if I-
Boxed items, I
Boxed
see,
items, so
okay.
books in boxes.
Okay, gotcha. And the last thing was, oh, last thing is, again, a great example of why I will bring it up at the end, but we need to start having agendas that are workable. Not 22 or 21 items on there, with plenty of time to discuss. And then you won't always be in trouble either way, because it'll be
Still
workable.
in trouble.
Well, not for
Fault
that.
finders will still be finding fault. All right, so.
Important question.
Okay, go.
Are there any known, unknown, large ticket items that are not showing up for the Post Falls restoration? And again, we looked like we have $300,000 under our claim limit. Are there any large known unknowns out there? Meaning things that are in the $20,000 or $50,000 ranges? Because if not, I'm very happy with this.
Well, and I do need to be clear, so this does not include the replacement cost of the 7,000 books. So we have about $300,000 to replace our books. We could still go over that amount. So I cannot, until we start going, some of the items that we lost are valued at $75 each. So if you took $75 and multiplied out 7,000 items, where we lost some things. Sometimes they do depreciation, sometimes it's replacement, there's processing costs, I don't have the final number yet, that's the big one. The other unknown is, the event occurred in January, water got in the walls, we really don't know what's behind the walls. And so we'll know more once they do demo, and if there's any additional hygiene or mitigation that's required, we'll know more then.
So are we gonna hold off on some of the book replacement until we know where we are? Because it would seem like if we have a lot of unknowns regarding construction, and then we go ahead and spend $200,000 or $300,000 on book replacements, and then we surprisingly go over, I would think that's got some flexibility to it, and a timing would seem to me that we would keep on pressing on until we have some hard numbers before we burn up all the rest of the difference there with purchase. That's my last question.
Yes, you'll notice in the post fall thing I mentioned, that I'm estimating all those books are going to be needing to be processed in 3 months. That's because we're not going to fully be able to have them on site and processed until close to when we open. So it is deferred a little bit. I will say that we will begin in probably 2 weeks. We'll have some staff to be able to do this, putting together the summary list of what was lost and the replacement cost value of that, or at least the book value of it. And if we go over the limit of what we have remaining in our claim, they'll just send us a check for the remaining amount. If we need to, we would have to itemize and document what the replacement costs and keep a lot of additional documentation. And so I can't speak right now what level of documentation we're going to do. The next step is really starting putting them in a list, putting them in Excel, adding up the book value of what we lost and inventorying that. And then from there we can move forward. But yes, I don't expect it to be more than $50,000. It could come up in a construction item that we don't know about. So it's still very manageable.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, and now for number 18, custody education, 5 minutes from our attorney.
On that?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, you have 2 documents I passed out for the public benefit if they want to see what we're discussing. We're going to focus on the court case, but there's a SCOTUS blog opinion analysis by Amy, how public officials can be held liable for blocking critics on social media, published March 15, 2024. And the case we're going to discuss today is related to the article Lindsay versus Creed. It's a 2024 case that's just out from the Supreme Court. You have a couple of highlights. Page 3, there's a pink highlight on the 2-part test the Supreme Court set forth. Page 3 of the court case on the bottom, you should see some pink highlights. And it says, when a government official posts about job-related topics on social media, it can be difficult to tell whether the speech is official or private. We hold that such speech is attributable to the state only if the official, one, possessed actual authority to speak on the state's behalf, and two, purported to exercise that authority when he spoke on social media. The reason this is important is because there was a circuit split between the Sixth Circuit's rationale and the Second and the Ninth Circuit's rationale that were much more convoluted and complicated tests. The other really important part I want you to look at, please read it, but on page 9, there's a highlight at the bottom of the page, and the court gives guidance to, they're calling it the state official, but the reason they say that is because it's not federal. So it applies to the states and political subdivisions, which would be like a board of trustees here for the library. The very last sentence there, a public official who fails to keep personal posts in a clearly designated personal account, therefore exposes himself to greater potential liability. So the reason this is very important is because the court goes through a fact-intensive analysis on this two-part test to find, one, if you actually possess that authority, meaning is it within sort of the bailiwick of what your job description is and what you do. And then the second part of the fact-specific undertaking regarding, the post content and functions as well. And so all of that being said, from an attorney perspective, it means there's increased liability if you don't clearly bifurcate what your personal and your official communications are. And take Facebook, for instance. We're seeing a lot of this happen for social media platforms that have a blocking feature. And so if you just delete a comment, the court will analyze what was the issue in that comment, and it will be a very narrow analysis. But if you delete a comment and then block someone, the court will look at all of the issues you've discussed on your entire social media page, like Facebook page, in that instance. And the reason this is important is as it relates to the Idaho Tort Claims Act and personal liability for elected officials or public officials. The Idaho Tort Claims Act in 6903 paragraph 3 states that the entity has to indemnify or defend you for your official acts. And the literal quote here is, the defense of its employee by the governmental entity shall be undertaken whether the claim and civil lawsuit is brought in Idaho District Court under Idaho law or is brought in a United States court under federal law. The governmental entity may refuse a defense or disavow and refuse to pay any judgment for its employee if it is determined that the act or omission of the employee was not within the course and scope of his employment or included malice or criminal intent. And a board trustee is an employee for purposes of the Idaho Tort Claims Act. And you will see a flurry of cases come through now that starts to define what's within the course and scope of your authority as an elected official related to activity on social media accounts. So that's an emerging field. And once a court case is there, it's way more likely that it will be clearly established under the law. And so I want you guys to be tracking this issue as we make progress down that in our legal arena. I'm going to tie in the personal liability of trustee conversation as we move forward related to malice, criminal intent, open meeting law violations, or other type of acts, and as it relates to viewpoint discrimination and things like that. So there'll be a little bit of a theme there, so you understand the importance of following the process and mentioning the state laws and reciting that and going through that process. This is very important. So 10 seconds left, I'll end there. Thank you.
Right. Any quick questions or is it good? Trust class?
So in summary, if you don't use social media, we don't need to worry about this. This is only for trustees that make postings on social media. I mean, your whole presentation, right?
Yeah, the case revolved around a private Facebook page and a person who was an administrator for a city that had a bunch of friends and was nearing the 5,000 friend limit and converted the page into a publicly accessible Facebook page instead of a private profile.
Okay, well then we will move on to discussion of public comment policy, public etiquette and signs. I know that the director had asked us to pare things down. If we could agree quickly, that would be great, but otherwise I think it should be postponed. Trustee Robinson? Yeah, so this was yours, so
Yeah.
yeah, you should have preference.
I think that it could be pared down very quickly, and we just go with the very first in red. And then we could add on the second page, the members of the media in red part, if people want that. But I think the first, members of the public may display signs. However, the signs must not interfere with board business or audience members' involvement and or observation of the meeting. I think that sums it all up. I don't think it is a big problem on a regular basis. So that's my comment on that.
Trustee Henry?
It's interesting, someone during public comment brought it up, and I already had it marked. In the opening in the black top, let me see where it is, where about the third sentence approximately, it says, public comment will be addressed at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. I had mine marked, it says May. I don't think we should be forced. Someone come in here and could make some crazy remark, and then we have to address that. I don't want to be bottled in. So I recommend we take the will and turn it to a May. And then the next sentence didn't look like it was grammatically sound. I'm not sure. Comments may be submitted by writing, I would say in writing. And I would say, or orally presented instead of or oral presentation or both. I'm not sure what that means by both. So someone can write in and have their writings, I don't know, read out loud. And then you can also come up to the podium and make a I couldn't follow that sentence there. So I'm just suggesting may say, comments may be submitted in writing or orally. That seems to be simpler. And then my preference, just as trustee Robinson brought up, I like the last two paragraphs. I think they go well. Whereas that's out of respect of the proceedings right there. And the next one, both of those, I think would fit very well. And I would cross out though, in the first one, the one that says out of respect, the last sentence, placards, banners, signs, flags, and other arts are not permitted in the board meeting. That wouldn't fly. So I disagree with that. But I like the last two options that are in red right there, both of them combined. They look like they cover everything. Whether you're trying to talk about people silencing their phones, tablets, making noise, talking about the room limitations, and then going on, the use of banners and so forth may be acceptable. I think that's all good. On the last thing I have was the title. And maybe you should say public comment and conduct policy, because it's not just about the comment, it's also the conduct in the room. So that's the way I'm reading it. And that's all I have.
I absolutely agree that the public comment may be addressed, changing that word, because, I mean, we should, but we haven't been just because we've got some really important things on the agenda and we're just having troubles getting through things. And I'm okay with the other, and that comments may be submitted in writing or orally presented or both. I'm fine with that. Mr. Robinson?
The comments may be submitted, whatever different sentences, I'm fine with that too, but I would like to keep it, public comments will be addressed. I take that as it will be on our agenda. It doesn't mean an individual has to, or any of us have to talk about the past comments. That would be the May part. But I had been missing that on the agenda because I remember clearly when we put it on. I think it was the chair's idea that wanted to have it put on a couple years ago. I do miss having that option. And if a trustee doesn't want to talk about it, they don't have to, or if they don't have a comment, but public comment will be addressed. That just means it has a permanent place on the agenda.
Hey, Trustee Claus?
So I guess I agree with the last two paragraphs that Trustee Hanley mentioned. I still wanted, didn't get added, but I wanted here on the further on in the document here where it has the bullet points. Speaker may address only library related topics. At special meetings, only budget meetings, comments should be addressed directly to the board and not the audience. And I would like to add no comments personally about trustees. Or maybe I should say no personal comments about trustees. I don't think somebody should be able to come out there and say, I don't like the way trustee Hanley combs his hair.
Yeah.
Or I don't like
Easy.
the way, anyway, what we're doing and actions we're taking are fair game, but comments about trustees should be about our public actions and what we're doing.
So we do have to be careful about the First Amendment. It does say down below that, a couple bullet points right above the red bullet point, that says no personal attacks or disruptions from audience members will be tolerated. So we already had that part
Really?
in there.
That's for just talking. I'm talking about public comments.
That's what this policy is.
Yeah, it says when addressing, sorry.
Says no
It says
personal
from
attack.
audience members.
From the audience members, that's just what you asked for.
No.
There will be no personal attacks.
I'm talking about public, when they're making public comments.
That's
Same thing.
what this
Well,
is.
the
Same
heading
thing.
says when addressing the board.
Yeah. Right, that's what this policy is, public
Okay.
comment.
Okay, so I'm sorry, trustee Plas, did you address the very first paragraph, public comment will be or may be addressed?
I definitely think maybe.
Okay, so we have 3 for maybe,
For what?
for changing public comment will be addressed to public comment may be addressed.
Oh, no, I want it to stay will.
Okay,
Then who decides if it goes on the agenda the next month?
Right. Then it's continually squelched
I
by
don't
the
read,
majority.
sorry, trustee. I don't read the public comment will be addressed at the next regularly scheduled board meeting to require that public comment is on the agenda. To me, address means to deal with or treat or communicate directly. So my reading of this policy is that board members will not engage in a back and forth argument with the public commenter, but they will present a response to that public comment in the next board meeting if they so choose to do that. But not that there will be public comment at the subsequent meeting.
trustee Hammond?
But that would mean that theoretically, I don't know how many speakers we had today. We have to put an item on the agenda, the following meeting, and address all 10 or 12 comments were made. I assume that's the way I'm reading that. Comments, I mean, it says public comment will be addressed, and we want to address it as a whole. I don't know, taking it as a whole. But I don't know. To me, that means we're supposed to address the comments that were made at the public comment period.
Yeah, I would think, oh, go ahead. Like,
The way that our attorney just described it, I think is the intent of that there will not be this, the board will not be addressing it as you speak. In other words, we're not going to be arguing. So maybe we want to take the sentence and make it a different sentence to do that so that it doesn't, but I can see where people are thinking, oh, we're supposed to put all this on the agenda. But the intent was the intent was always that we will not be engaging in a back and forth. So if we could change that sentence to look like that, then it takes it also off the having to put it on the agenda every fall.
okay, yeah, I would think that the expectation of the audience, obviously, it says, well, it will be addressed, so you guys better do it. I think that maybe, so we had at least 3 who wanted to change it to maybe.
I'm fine with that. Now that that's pointed out, the way you said it, that makes more sense to me.
Okay.
That would make them think that. I do want to say real quick also that this was on our agenda for a long time and it was never abused, people didn't address everybody's comments from the last meeting. It was only used a few times.
Right. Director?
I'm just gonna kind of
Extrapolate what he just said, like, so if you change it to may, does that mean that trustees can engage right in the moment?
Exactly.
It kind of, it's still a little bit unclear. If the intention, which is how I've always anticipated it to be, that engagement, we don't want a shouting match, escalation or disrupt. And so maybe allowing some time for me to rework that sentence or look at what other people have done.
That would be great.
Yeah, because it says they will not be responding at the meeting, so.
That's what I thought. Oh, yeah, it does, right?
Sentence right
Right before it, although they will not be responding at the meeting. So that's already covered. I think that we should just change it to May
Mhm.
instead of will. Do we still have majority consent on that?
I just
Okay,
wanted to say one.
okay, go ahead, trustee Moss.
In engineering world, when we have requirements, it's shall be such and such or may be such and such. So there is no will, that's kind of middle. Anyway, I would think if we had to do it, we would say shall be addressed. So I like may.
Okay, all right, so we do have majority consent on that, and I think our time is up for that. We will need, I would entertain a motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Or,
I move that we extend the meeting for 15 minutes.
okay, it has been moved to extend the meeting for 15 minutes, and there is no debate on that, so, I think on limiting or debate or wait, anyway, well, is there discussion on it? I don't think that there. Okay, yeah, because the point is we need to move along.
vote.
All right, so all those in favor of extending the meeting 15 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that would be everybody. The ayes have it, and we are extending the meeting until 5:45. All right, so, where are we at? The next discussion topic is discussion of future agenda requests.
Just really clear, so I'm not gonna do anything with this. We're just changing one word to may, and then we're bringing it back and we're gonna, cause I heard Robinson say she liked one, and then these two like this two, I heard two. Did I hear three? I don't think I heard enough. So I'm just reflecting that back into.
Just the May was the only
Just
one
the
that I
May,
had.
and then we're just leaving it as is. We're not adding anything. You want me to bring it back?
Yeah, it'll just be moved to the next agenda unless,
How about this? There were trustees who said they liked that one under add, and there were two who liked the other two under the or. Maybe we should dump everything else. At least pare it down.
Yeah.
okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And then the one that was members of the media that Robinson mentioned.
Yeah, that one.
Add
And
that one.
then
The first
last
one, and
two
then the
ors.
last two.
The first add and the last two ors.
And then the May.
And
And
the
then
May.
are
And
they also orally, or orally?
that part I don't.
Okay, yeah, that's just enough for now. So
Okay.
we're moving on to discussion of future agenda requests.
You want to make a motion to adopt that?
No.
No, you want to see it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, trustee Finley?
Yeah, I looked at the schedule, which we don't have, we have a partial schedule. I'm suggesting we move April's meeting from Athol to Hayden. And Hayden would normally be scheduled in August, and make the August one, if Athol's back up and running, have our meeting over in Athol. So
Okay.
if you call that an agenda item or not.
That would be under set special and regular meeting.
Oh, that's what we're
dates.
doing.
No, we're on number 20, discussion of future agenda requests.
Okay.
I would like that we put the staff hybrid on the agenda for next month. We may or may not decide to do that, but at least if it's on there, we have the opportunity to look at it over the next month and then discuss it then.
What is the, oh, the
Staff hybrid, the one that we got today. Yeah, the one that you guys
Policy.
said that you liked.
Okay, that
Yeah.
sounds good.
Sorry, materials hybrid staff.
Oh.
Material, yeah. Trustee Blake?
I would like a topic, an agenda item of the open meeting law because of the, letter that we got. I'd like to talk about the intent of the open meeting law. I'd like to talk about possible inconsistencies we have, and I'm also concerned about, under that topic, I'm also concerned about the agendas that we're having that are starting to they're starting to squash a robust discussion. And consequently, I feel like that's a little bit of for lack of a better term, censorship of board ideas. And so all of this would fall under an open meeting law as a topic.
Okay, I felt like the letter was just blowing smoke to waste our time and accuse us of stuff that isn't happening.
That's such a personal opinion.
It is, but so is yours.
No, it's
And that-
not as a request. Mine is a request for an agenda item that we talk about the issues in that.
Okay, well, I'm opposed. Trustee Fox?
I'm opposed to that too, but I did have two of my own, or I don't know whether I can.
Okay, let's deal with it one thing
Okay.
at a time. Trustee Robinson?
What I've been wanting for a long time is for us to have,
Did you want to address that?
yes,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
a special meeting, or on the agenda about how an agenda should be set up for efficiency. So that, I believe, Trustee Blank just added to the last sentence of her open meeting part. I am absolutely for us getting to learn how to do a more efficient agenda for everybody to have their time to talk and for items to actually get moved on or passed or squashed and not moved on, I guess I should say. So I definitely would go for a special meeting if it had to do with the agenda being set up properly. And that, I guess, would also be having to do with special meetings, how special meetings are brought about. So yes, for me.
Okay, Trustee Hanley?
I think how a special meeting is called is already covered in the bylaws. There is a line item in there for that, and that's what we used once or twice when we had special meetings. I wouldn't mind a general discussion on open meeting procedure, or maybe we need one on talk generally about how we put things on the agenda. That I don't know if I've ever seen it solidified anywhere. So I know that as far as I know, the chair is the ultimate yes or no on the agenda. I think takes input from the director, I think, and or I guess two trustees can ask for something to be put on the agenda, but I'm not 100% sure on the absolutes on what are the rules on how you get something on an agenda, or how can it be rejected, not from the agenda. So between that and at least with the agenda, I'll drop off on the open meeting thing. I don't know if it's related to that or not, but I think that we could entertain possibly a discussion on how you get something on the agenda or who has the authority to put things on the agenda.
Sure.
Trustee Blas?
So I'm opposed to spending any time on how to do the agendas. It's really clear in our bylaws. The chair sets it, gets counsel from library board. Two trustees can request a special meeting. And at this point in the meeting, a majority, three or more agree to add an item. I don't think we need to talk about it more. I would like to add a topic, an action item to discuss.
Okay, wait, you'll be next, but
Okay.
let's, okay, so Trustee Hanley, you said that you, never mind on the open meeting law thing, or, okay, so that one failed, to have
Well, what about
majority
the,
consensus?
that wasn't just an open meeting, that was agenda setup. And
Yeah, and I said no.
Okay, so yes,
Wait, for what?
for agenda setup being on,
Yes, I would.
okay, so yes,
As an
No.
no,
Yes.
yes, Trustee Hanley?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a no on that. I think it would be useful, but we've got so many things on
the agenda.
the agenda. And a lot of that, like I said multiple times, things keep getting dragged out forever because of,
Lack of time to talk about it.
from delaying tactics.
How many items were added to this agenda that did not need to be here?
It needs to be taken care of.
All right, okay, so,
Sure.
Trustee Blas?
So I have two things I would like to have. One is to bring to closure, maybe it's an action item we vote on, but legal opinion presentation format. We're gonna get written. We never solved that. Are we gonna get written summary of what legal counsel has to say to us, which I would prefer, as opposed to publicly reading it off to us? So I think I would like that as a discussion, because we never finished it. And then the second one
Okay,
is,
so you'd like a continuation of that?
I'd like to finish it, have an action item.
What is the item, what is the
I think
topic?
I know.
It's legal opinion presentation. Legal counsel even said it today. He can give us a report, he can talk to us about it, he can send an email, blah, blah, blah. I just want us to come to a consensus or a conclusion on how we want it done. It's not been, we have not given direction to council how we want him to present. The second one is strategic plan discussion and action item. And that is just to bring up, what are we gonna do? Not to redo the strategic, what are we gonna do about it? And I'd just like to have a 10-minute discussion about the strategic plan. It's here, it keeps coming up, and we haven't talked about it. I just want the board to talk about it and take action, some kind of action on it.
Okay.
Keep it, whatever.
Okay, so the strategic plan, that would be useful, I think, down the road, because we're
Well,
swamped.
I'm not saying to change it. I'm just saying we need to say that we've already said verbally, we don't, a number of us don't care for it.
Okay,
So I'm just looking
So
for a
it-
discussion on, are we going to, maybe we dump it? I don't know.
okay, so at some point in the future, I am.
I'm not looking to
we're
rewrite it
discussing
right
the
now,
strategic
yeah.
plan. Do we have a third person or consensus? No. Okay,
I don't understand what it's.
just
Is
to
it to
discuss the
change it, or-
strategic plan.
We could have the option to rescind it or to just put it on hold. We're obviously not going to address it very fast. And we got too many things going on, but in the meantime, it keeps being the direction we're going. So this is the chance to say, put it on hold. We're not looking at it now. That's all I'm talking about, is a discussion about it. What do we want to do about it? If we don't want to do anything, then it's still there leading the way.
Okay, so Trustee Hanley?
Well, it's a monstrous document, meaning it's gonna take input from staff and board and maybe public to figure out what we may or may not want to change in there. And that's even bigger than the materials selection process, I think. And I think we don't have enough closure on things we have going on at the moment.
You misunderstood me. I'm just saying,
Okay, so we aren't going to debate it, the whole thing, just
yeah.
whether we're gonna put it on the agenda or not, so it sounded like that, failed.
They can do it.
just to rescind it.
All right, continuation of legal opinion.
Let's just get us saying I'm at Diana.
I think the board would want to talk about the ICRIP decision. That has not been an agenda item.
Okay, we're still dealing with one more thing that he had, continuation of legal opinion, presentation and conclusion.
Continuation, did we have an official legal opinion presentation topic ever?
Yes,
We
have
board
talked
did
about it.
discuss it.
It
But
was
we
an
haven't
agenda.
had a topic of it.
it was
has
an
we?
agenda item and we couldn't conclude anything. So we went-
I don't, it was an agenda
So I
item?
think it's automatically should go on the next one, so, when something's not.
Yeah, look at it. We didn't take any action. We just talked and.
It was on the agenda though. huh?
Okay,
Yeah.
so, I think the director was next.
I apologize, I didn't know you weren't done, but, yes, I think you should, discuss the ICRIP decision. And then, just as a reminder, you had mentioned that you wanted to talk about February minutes or minute taking or something like that as an agenda topic.
Okay, do we have others that are interested in the ICRIP decision?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Okay, so we have two
What is that
discussing the ICRIP decision.
about?
The
Apple
directors
and-
asked for it. I don't
About
understand
Apple
why we
and
wouldn't
Post
listen.
Falls or what?
Well, because it's we're
About,
each individual people and we're allowed to have our own opinion. So I don't think it's necessary.
What?
Trustee Glass?
I don't know what the ICRIP decision is that we want to talk about. Is it whether they're gonna cover us next year, or is it about their decision on the two libraries for the coverage, or what do you mean?
So I think it would be, a responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility of the board to at least discuss the decision. We had a claim limit that was quoted to us at, let's just say $6 million for Post Falls. And then you received the correspondence that modified that to $1 million. Legal counsel and I have discussed it, and there is a process for dispute resolution in the joint powers agreement. And so I think it is not necessary for an action, but I think it's, I'm going to say strongly necessary for a discussion. At least acknowledging the decision and hearing from counsel. I don't know that it has to be a recommendation, but hearing from counsel his review of our policy. They're citing pipe fittings, and so I don't want to go into the discussion, but yes, it's relating to the claim limit and the correspondence that you received. Right, so do we have a third person for that?
That is.
Yes, okay, so that was.
Is that executive session?
I don't know, would it be executive? Legal counsel may have a different opinion, but you potentially could go into executive session if you decide to follow some of the agreement, the dispute resolution and joint powers agreement. I would estimate it's really his determination if we're going to pursue legal action and whether that falls under that. But I would say that as an initial point, I would just recommend that we get more information and then bring that back.
Sure.
I'm not prepared to answer that because there's multiple topics. ICRIP decision, dispute resolution under JPA, acknowledging a decision, pipe fitting sounds like it's related to a current claim coverage, potential contract coverage dispute. Claim limits are the same. So those are multiple topics that have to do it topic by topic, but certainly there's a potential for an opportunity for executive session, but it may not be necessary.
Okay, so that could probably be determined at another time. So let's deal with the other one, which was minutes. Do we have any board majority consensus?
We have those February minutes that we have to approve as well.
Yeah.
But we discuss, are we discussing what goes in the minutes? Is that?
Yes.
What
Yeah, so just discussing like what Idaho Commission for Libraries, Robert's Rules, and IGRAM all suggest. So I'm a yes for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, okay, so. All right, and then I
Oh, sorry.
also wanted to discuss how the budget draft is presented to us.
That's next.
So I mean, just as a discussion item,
Why don't we just have the budget draft presented?
Well,
because it was problematic last year, and it caused a lot of turmoil and actually I shouldn't be debating it. Anyway, just discuss budget drafts, how it's presented. So I'm a yes, you're.
yeah, well, the master schedule says initiate or begin budget discussion. That's on that draft calendar for the board, so that's a yes.
Okay. And
Are you talking about like the format of how it's presented or how it's verbally presented along with the paperwork?
well, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without debating it or discussing it.
Clarifying.
I would just clarify that the budget should be balanced before it comes to us.
But
So,
I would,
that's an impossibility. That's why it comes to us that way,
Yeah,
so
the
that we
board-
can see, oh, we have an unbalanced budget, we now have to adjust it. If you balance it, then you are having the director balance it. You are not allowing the staff, the board to balance it.
Yeah, and that's
You're
what we can
taking
do.
away board responsibility. That's our job.
okay, well, we can discuss that more.
Yes,
if
put
we
it on
have
the,
that.
I say put it on then.
Okay, so
good,
we
Bill.
have 3 or 4 people for that, so that's, okay, hopefully we're done. We need another motion to extend so that we can get to that last item.
I move that we extend 5 minutes for the last item.
Okay, it has been moved that we extend 5 minutes. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so the meeting has been extended another 5 minutes. Okay, so now we are moving on to Lose my page. Set special and regular meeting dates.
I have a request.
Okay, go ahead, trustee Blank.
I would like to ask for a special meeting, since you won't put it on the agenda, that we discuss open meeting law. I would like to have our attorney there. I'd like to talk about the intent of open meeting law. I have felt since after many meetings after the June 15th meeting, that this board has violated open meeting laws over and over again. I'm not certain that we're clear about it. The email that we received highlighted what I have profound concerns about. If this requires executive session, that's fine, but I'm looking at general. This board needs to understand open meeting law, and it does not, and it is putting us at a lot of risk. To that end, I would like to say that I would like to add two things to the minutes. One is the letter that we got from Regina McCree, and the other one was the request that I had sent to the board chair that, and sent to all the rest of you, talking about this agenda and how concerned I was. And I think the agenda falls right into it, because I think there's so many items that get so limited, we don't get discussion. So that is my request, is that we have a meeting on the open meeting law and have the attorney attend.
Well, that already failed, and
Well-
I think it would be,
Wait a second, you didn't ask everybody.
Yeah, I would definitely, I say yes to it, because it's impossible to get a lot of things on the agenda, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of special meetings going on, and it's never having to do with anything that certain people ask for. So I absolutely second that special meeting.
If it would be put on the agenda, there would be no request for a special meeting. It is the limitation of the silencing of board members that does this.
well, the board works by majority. So if a majority don't.
It doesn't have to for the agenda. It absolutely doesn't
And
have to.
two people definitely can call special meetings, because it's happened, without even trying to get everybody's schedule in order.
All right, so unless there's majority consent on that, then you would need to go through that process. Is there anyone else who's interested in that special meeting that?
What was it?
No.
I love it that the board does not want to learn about how to follow the law. It pleases me a lot. It scares me.
What process? Because there was two people before that called meetings.
Right, we're
Was it?
calling a special meeting. We are calling a special meeting. We'll work with the director on setting an agenda. My request is that we look at that meeting date a week from today. And, from 2 to 4. And we will do exactly what was done before, but we will work with the director to set an agenda. And my request is that we have the attorney, because I don't know, I mean, there may be parts of that letter that need to be talked about in executive session.
Okay, so like I said, you guys need to contact the director and to set that up. We don't have majority consensus on that right now. And trustee Hanley, you had a date that you wanted to look at changing, or?
Yeah, there was that subject.
Or location?
No.
No,
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, at the next, according to the master schedule that we never finished putting together, though, it did identify Athol as a meeting site for the next meeting, the next regular meeting. And, obviously it's not open, and I'm assuming that means it will default to here. And Hayden is cited as the meeting site for August. So if Athol's back up, we can have our meeting there potentially.
Okay, yeah, so default, we'll have it here.
Well, the agenda shows that it is. What schedule? Maybe it wasn't updated on a different schedule. But the agenda here says April 18th at Hayden Library.
Well, there was a master schedule you drafted up once, suggesting that we put together,
And then
and it
it's
shows how we're gonna go from one library to the other library. We rotate through the summer. And the next one, according to that, it wasn't necessarily an approved schedule, I guess, but it was just showing the next meeting was gonna be at Athol, so.
I think that was an earlier version, I think.
So I'm fine with this, what's on the agenda right here. I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right, well, then our time is up, and hopefully nobody has anything else, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
It has been moved that we adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it, and we are adjourned.